Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the amber haze of Marrakech at dusk, where the air itself glitters with centuries of lost gold dust. You're not in Kansas anymore, though to be fair, Kansas never tried to melt your sandals with midday heat like this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. Bonus points if you're somewhere equally scorching. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your sandals whisper secrets to the cobblestones, still radiating warmth from a sun that dipped below the Atlas Mountains hours ago. Wait, scratch that. These aren't cobblestones, they're fragments of history. Marrakech was founded in 1162, but you're not here for a history lecture. You're here because that narrow alley ahead pulses like a vein, its walls oozing brass filings that catch in lantern light. The Smiths call it breath of the Sauk, though OSHA would have a panic attack over airborne metal. Every step kicks up golden ghosts, particles from workshops where artisans have hammered dreams into shape since Berber caravans first arrived. Historians still argue whether this particular quarter housed royal treasuries or counterfeiters' dens, the answers written in the wall's patina. If you know how to read corrosion, you brush against a door, so weathered its engravings feel like braille under your fingers. Push, and realize halfway it's not stuck. It's just carrying the weight of 900 years. The creak could wake Ibn Battuta's ghost, if he weren't already haunting duty-free shops at Marrakech Menara Airport. Inside smells like fire's memory and sheepskin parchment. Your eyes adjust to the gloom. No electric lights here, just oil lamps nursed by apprentices who probably traded their TikTok accounts for calloused hands. That warm flicker dances across tools hung like medieval torture devices, tongs with teeth, hammers wearing skirts of oxidization. You reach for a ladle crusted with something that might be 17th century solder or dried couscous. Let's not investigate. A bead of sweat rolls down your neck, 60% humidity and 0% mercy. The door slams behind you with a clang that should have shattered the vitrines. Nobody looks up. 3 smiths cluster around an anvil, murmuring into tmeṭṭut while their hammers ping a Morse code you somehow understand. One more bangle, they're saying. One more coil. Their rhythm syncs with your pulse, a dangerous sign. Last tourist who got hypnotized here accidentally pledged their timeshare to a lamp vendor. Note, the gilt seal above the doorways, hidden under 14 layers of blackened wax. They say it contains micro shards of Almoravid coins, scraped off during the dynasty's collapse. Wanna lick it? Didn't think so. Best to admire the geometry instead, those interlocking triangles that predate Pythagoras by, well, let's not open that debate again. Just breathe shallowly. Those floating specks aren't all iron oxide. Some whisper that prolonged exposure to Marrakech's metal fog turns your bones slightly magnetic. Hence, why quarter of the Medina's cats stick to certain alleys. Your palm meets a workbench's edge stickier than a kindergarten craft table. When you pull away, gossamer threads of gold leaf cling to your skin like aquatic mites. Try not to think about how many wedding bands you've just absorbed through osmosis. Across the room, a bellows wheezes. The youngest apprentice could be 15, could be 45, squints at your foreign silhouette. For a heartbeat, you're just another raw material waiting to be smelted. His shrug says chances are 50-50. That's when you spot it, the scrap ledger splayed open near a mortar. Columns of meticulous Arabic script detail transactions from the 1840s, parrots purchased, silver ingots owed, one particularly argumentative camel listed as sunset-colored nuisance. But your eyes snag on the smudged margin. Someone's doodled a perfect Fibonacci spiral alongside what looks like a crude UFO. History's full of party crashers, isn't it? The shop's cat rubs against your ankle, purring at a frequency that vibrates your fillings. Coincidence? Ask the magnetized cats outside. Dust motes pirouette in the lantern glow, each fleck a survivor of empire collapses and influencer photo shoots. You're struck by the urge to inhale deeply, to make history part of your respiratory system. Don't. That's how you end up coughing up gilded phlegm for weeks. Instead, trace the grooves worn into the floor by generations of pacing craftsmen. Their indecision, their breakthroughs, their desperate coffee runs, all fossilized in those shallow trenches. The smith-in-chief emerges from shadow. How long was he standing there? His apron's more patch than fabric, the leather gone suede soft from decades of emergency wipe-offs. When he speaks, it's through a grin missing its molars. Lost, he asks in French, the traditional Marrakech greeting for wide-eyed foreigners. You mumble something about admiring the architectural humidity. His chuckle smells like roasted chickpeas and regret. Sit, he says, pointing to a stool that's basically a tree stump in denial. Watch. He doesn't mean the molten gold. He means the scale, that ancient bronze beauty squatting in the corner like a disgruntled toad. Its chains clink as if gossiping about your weight. But here's the kicker. The counterbalance isn't weights. It's half a walnut shell filled with rosemary. The smith catches your bewildered stare. Precision's for accountants, he grunts. We measure by what the metal wants. As if on cue, the scale lets loose weight. You strain your ears. Beneath the workshop's metallic heartbeat, the clanks, the hisses, the occasional burp from the crucible, something hums, a note so low it vibrates your metacarpals. The smith nods solemnly. Saharan silver, he murmurs, cut with iron from meteorites, sings when purified. You open your mouth to ask how. His raised hand freezes the question. Later. First, prove you can hear it. The hum swells. Or is that your own tinnitus from yesterday's espresso overdose? You step through the brass door's groan, its hinge song older than your grandmother's favorite hymn. The air thickens, charcoal musk. and something sweeter, like dates left to rot in a saint's pocket. Across the workshop, the smith's hands move, ridged as desert bark, sifting gold flakes into a copper bowl. His fingertips catch the light, each crease packed with metallic glitter, a living map of every piece he's ever forged. That charcoal forge over there, it's not just breathing, it's gossiping. Heat licks your left cheek, a playful warning. You lean closer. Mistake. Now your eyelashes feel singed, lesson learned. Watch as the smith tosses a pinch of salt into the flames. It crackles like distant fireworks. Historians will tell you Maghrebi goldsmiths mastered lost wax, casting back in the 3rd century. But they don't mention how the molten metal sighs when it hits the mold. Gold flakes swirl in the bowl, tiny suns plucked from riverbeds. The smith murmurs numbers under his breath, gram weights turned into a throaty prayer. His apprentice crouches nearby, sweat tracing clean lines through the soot on his neck. The kid's job: snuff out embers that leap too far. He's got eyelid burns that'll make one hell of a courtship story someday. Notice the clay crucible, its belly blackened from centuries of melted nobility. Here's a fun fact they don't teach in museums. Old guild masters believed djinns stole gold flakes after dark. Countermeasure: they'd spit in the crucible at dawn, claimed human enzymes, confused evil spirits. Still see today's smith hawk a loogie into the fire. But watch him side-eye the shadows near the door. The smith pinches a saffron thread, drops it onto the scales. Brass arms tremble, seeking balance. You're one breath away from asking how much a prayer weighs, but the hammer's first clink shuts your teeth. Sheet gold folds under repetitive blows, the bench shivering like a scared goat. Ever seen metal sweat? There, first bead rolls down the pending goblet's curve, winks at you before diving into the ashes below. Someone coughs. It's the apprentice, his lungs fighting the haze. The smith passes him a water skin, without looking, centuries of hierarchy in that gesture. You count hammer strikes, 73 before the rhythm stutters. A flaw in the metal, the smith's nostrils flare, he rotates the piece. Problem solved. Crow's feet deepen around his eyes. Proof he's been squinting at imperfections since before your parents met on that misguided dating app. Shadows caper across walls, date palm patterns etched by a dying lantern. The smith tears a pomegranate with bare hands. Seeds bleed onto his wrist. He licks them clean, a flash of pink tongue. His fingers, now sticky, return to the gold, imprint tiny half-moons on its surface. Historians still argue whether those geometric patterns on old Almoravid coins were artistic choices or theft deterrents to mess with counterfeiters' eyes. The forge exhales a particularly lung-searing breath. You retreat past baskets of raw amber. Your hip bumps a table, sending silver filings skittering. 12 years bad luck. Maybe. The smith's head snaps up, glare hotter than his beloved coals. You freeze mid-apology. His gaze softens, tosses you a fig from his apron pocket. peace offering. An hour in, you realize the heat's reshaped your posture, shoulders hunched like a vulture, knees bent for quick escapes. The apprentice catches you mid-cringe grins. For a heartbeat, you're co-conspirators. Then the smith barks a command into tmeṭṭut. The kid scrambles. You pocket the fig souvenir or survival snack. Jury's out. Watch closely now. The smith's hammer does something weird. It hovers just for a breath before each strike, like it's listening. Old Berber metalworkers called this tislit, NT-M, letter 1E60, letter 1E60, UT, the whisper of the iron. They believed tools memorized their wielder's intentions. Skeptics say it's muscle memory. You're just glad that hammer isn't staring back. Lantern light catches the goblet's rim, reveals a hairline fissure. The smith hisses, dunks the piece into a trough. Water screams, steam veils his face. When it clears, he's rubbing the flaw with a thumb, an apology to the metal. His lips move, no sound. The apprentice swaps tools, bone handles worn smooth as a serpent's belly. Outside, a donkey brays, 3 short bursts. The smith's head tilts, listening. His hands keep working, kneading gold now, like dough for a tyrant's wedding loaf. You catch a flicker of turquoise, a ring under all that grime. Bet it belonged to someone who laughed louder than this forge roars. Dust motes swirl in a sunbeam, the workshop's only clock. Your fig feels warm in your palm, probably radioactive from the furnace. You take a bite. The fig's sweetness dies fast, overpowered by a metallic tang coating your tongue. You blink. The workshop's gloom now swims with coiling shapes. Above the bench, precious metals twist gold's buttery curves. Beside silver's icy spines, electrum slinks between them, a drowsy hybrid, neither one nor the other. Fun fact: Lydia's first coins were electrum. Bet their kings never had to pry it off a workbench like overcooked pasta. The smith slaps a mold onto the table, clay weathered to the color of a mummy's bandages. Its inner surface gleams, mirror smooth from generations of molten baptisms. He unlatches it with a knuckle tap, ancient hinges sighing open, inside crescent channels. Not just jewelry shapes, these are the moon's fingerprints stolen during a Maghreb eclipse. Molten silver pours from a crucible, a liquid star settling into the mold. Steam hisses upwards, carrying the stench of burning sheep's fat. Back in the day, they used animal grease to lubricate casts. You forgot to pack Vicks for your nostrils. Rookie mistake. The smith's apprentice leans, in tattoo, on his forearm ripples as he steadies the mold. It's a crude scorpion tail missing. You raise an eyebrow. He shrugs. The ink guy sneezed. Watch the metal cool, its crimson glare dimming to a sullen glow. Some molds here, if the guild records aren't lying, date back to Moorish Spain. Quirky detail. Andalusian craftsmen etched Quranic verses into mold seams. Not for piety, they believed divine text purified the metal. See the smith trace a thumb over the Arabic script. Yeah, he's not fooling anyone, still hedging his bets. Electrum snakes through the smith's fingers, a disobedient river. He wrestles it into a helix. Your spine twinges in sympathy. Ever wonder why ancient necklaces coil like serpents? Blame the third dynasty. Priests claimed sleeping metal needed spiral dreams to hold magic. The smith's version. He mutters easier to sell to German tourists. Hammer strikes flatten the helix. Ribbons bloom under his blows. Frost patterns spread each strike freezing motion into permanence. A mold slips, molten gold splatters toward the edge. The apprentice lunges, catches it with bare hands. You flinch. He grins, shows palms calloused into armor, some initiation rite. Historians still argue whether Fatimid-era adornments were ritual objects or just rich folks' flexes. Either way, you're voting for hazard pay for this kid. The fixed mold births crescent pendants dozens at once. They shimmer wet and dangerous like a crocodile's smile. The smith flicks them into a water trough. They scream. Steam swallows the room, a temporary sauna. Sweat soaks your collar, salt on your lips. That fig's long gone, your stomach growls. The smith side-eyes you, tosses a date pit into the coals. It pops, makes you jump. His chuckle sounds like gravel in a tin cup. Night seeps through the workshop's lone window. Oil lamps bloom into existence. Their light licks a shelf of discarded molds. Some are wrong. Too many limbs. Eyes where mouths should be. Your finger hovers near a 10-armed goddess silhouette. The smith slaps your wrist. Old Berber djinn traps. Don't feed them. You withdraw, wondering what feeding entailed. Best not to ask. Gold coils cool into bracelets. The smith pokes one with a rusty awl. It sings, a high, pure note. Musicologists would cream their pants. 6th century courts used such tones in healing rituals. The smith yawns, jams the bracelet onto a leather cord. So much for transcendence. Your shadow looms over the workbench, distorts the metal's colors. Silver turns jaundiced. Electrum adopts a diseased green. The apprentice snorts. You shift, embarrassed. He mimics you, waggling his fingers over a pendant. It's a kind of endearing. The smith flicks a gold flake at his head, misses. It sticks to a spider web, instant treasure for 8-legged royalty. Dust motes swirl in the lamplight. Your eyes track them instead of the smith's. Suddenly, still hands. He's staring at a pommel mold's inscription, worn smooth. Carthaginian, maybe. Or just some drunk Viking's doodle after getting lost en route to Greenland. His thumb rubs the grooves, mouth moving silently. Whatever prayer he's recycling, it works. The mold splits open, a dagger hilt slides out. Ruby eyes glare up, hateful as a canceled credit card. Firelight winks in the trough, tiny crescents gleam at the bottom. You reach, freeze, glance at the smith. He nods, one chin dip that probably cost him 7 years of apprenticeship trauma. Your fingers close around a pendant, still warm. Its edge bites your palm, sweet pain. The crescent winks, knowing things. How many throats has this shape adorned? How many whispered oaths? Cold air slithers through a crack in the wall, snuffs out the nearest lamp. The smith freezes, hand half raised. Shadows congeal. Somewhere, a tool clatters, nobody's there. Apprentices Adams apple bobs. Smith grunts, spits into the forge. A blue flame surges, momentary daylight. Workshop exhales, resumes. You pocket the pendant, let its weight argue with your guilt. Outside, a nightingale screeches. The smith's hammer rises. The hammer's impact rings out. Brass scales jerk awake. Their arms quiver, rubies glare from one pan. Saffron threads slump in the other. You lean closer, catch the ruby's crystalline sneer. Ever seen gemstones look judgmental? Turns out they're naturals. The smith adjusts a counterweight, a lead cube chewed by time. Balance thrums, a bass note vibrating your molars. Welcome to humanity's first spreadsheet. These scales, calibrated empires rise and fall. Fun. Fact. Genghis Khan's tax coffers ran on saffron weight standards. Bet his auditors had allergies for days. A ruby rolls, climbs S Chinese letter S facets, like a smug little king. The smith flicks it back, callous, snagging on its razor edges. His hand doesn't bleed, seems unfair. Someone should tell rubies they're not actually royalty. Medieval Europe fell for that myth, sprinkled crushed garnet into wine for noble blood. Your guessing heartburn ensued. Saffron threads wilt under scrutiny. Each crimson strand costs more than its weight in saffron. Their scent ambushes you, honeyed smoke and stolen sunshine. Your sinuses stage a revolt. History nerds whisper that Almoravid merchants hid gold leaf in saffron bales. The smith plucks a thread, holds it to the light. Pure, he grunts. You're not sure if that's praise or a warning. The scales dip again, rubies rise victorious. The smith scowls, adds another thread. Now the saffron side sinks, arrogant rubies dangle midair. This isn't measurement, it's alchemy. Your eyes cross. Ancient Babylonian math pulses through the imbalance. Base 60, arithmetic encoded in brass. Ever tried dividing by 60 in your head? Didn't think so. The smith mutters ratios, his finger drawing circles in spilled turmeric. Sunlight slashes through a roof crack, ignites the rubies into laser dots. You shield your eyes, too late. Purple afterimages float like vengeful cherubs. Quirky tidbit. Some Berber tribes believed rubies trapped sunlight during eclipses, charged extra for night fire stones. The smith shifts, his shadow beheads the scarlet beams. So much for mystical marketing. A thread escapes, floats onto the forge's edge. It curls, blackens, crumbles. Saffron's final act, becoming a comma in someone else's sentence. The smith doesn't notice. His focus stays locked on equilibrium, that elusive moment when gems and spice admit their equals. You hold your breath. Historians still argue whether these scales measured wealth, or the silence between betrayal and forgiveness. Wind sneaks in, saffron threads tremble. One leaps ship lands in your sleeve cuff. The smith's glance flicks to you. Your pulse hiccups. He shrugs, tosses a replacement thread onto the pan. Stealing spice carries lighter penalties than gem theft, good to know. The scales settle dead even. Rubies pout. Saffron preens. Neither wins, just a merchant's wet dream of parody. Your stolen thread itches, radiating heat like a guilty secret. Back in Marrakech's markets, they'd dock a finger for this. Here, the smith winks, taps his hollow molar. Message received. Everyone's got hidden spices. The scales' arms creak, an old song. You hum along badly. Doesn't matter. In this equation, voice never factored. Tea steeps somewhere, mint disarms the saffron's musk. The scales frost over, condensation blurs their verdict. Smith exhales, a sound file corrupted by 72 years of metal fumes. His finger stabs the air collas. Done. The weights lift, rubies slide into a velvet bag, saffron into a bull's bladder. Poetic justice. You're too busy scratching your wrist, thread-induced rash blooming like a disgraceful rose. Dust motes descend, claim the scales as their throne, balance achieved until next sunrise. You pocket the rash-free souvenir. The smith wipes his brow, leaves a turmeric streak glowing like clown makeup. Whatever. His scales don't measure dignity either. The smith kicks a bellows pedal, the forge inhales. Molten gold swims in its clay womb, surface shimmering like a heat-stricken mirage. Your pupils contract. Suddenly grateful humans, evolved to fear things that glow. He tongs a ceramic cup into the crucible, dips it slow as a moonrise. Gold climbs the lip, obeys gravity's begrudging pull. Drop, 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 each globule crystallizes midair, a goblet stem rising like Wi-Fi signal bars. You squint, count 9 perfect beads before the 10th splatters. Perfection's overrated anyway. The smith scowls, scrapes the misfire into a tin labeled mistakes only. Someone's retirement fund. Roman glassmakers added manganese dioxide to erase imperfections, turned murky goo into clear wine vessels. This guy, less forgiving. His hammer twitches, a conductor's baton mid-crescendo. Rhythm seeps into your joints. Clink-tink, left foot tapping rogue. The workshop's heartbeat. Hammerheads ding dents you'd need a microscope to see. Precision's occult worship the 1000th gram. Sacrifice your sanity. Medieval Persians timed their strikes to poetry meters. Hardcore ASMR. You mouth clink as Yaquilun turns tyranny into art. A bead cools too fast, cracks spiderweb across its belly. The smith hisses, tosses it into a water bucket. Steam shrieks, a tiny ghost fleeing mediocrity. Quirky tidbit. Some Saharan smiths added desert gecko secretions to alloys, believed it made metal hungrier for fire. You sniff the bucket, smells like failure and reptile musk. Pass. He dips again. Gold licks the mold's throat, this time steady as a dowager's gaze. Beads solidify into a helix, DNA before Darwin. Your neck prickles. Historians still argue whether Etruscan filigree tools doubled as childbirth aids. The smith's hammer says shut up, and marvel. Sweat carves canyons through the soot on his neck. Furnace breath wilts your left eyebrow. Welcome to the haircut no one ordered. The goblet stem glows, incandescent spine of a metal hummingbird. 5 centuries back, a Spaniard drowned in a vat of molten gold. You side-eye the crucible, note the safety rail's absence. OSHA's a modern prank here. Copper filings rain tinsel in a drunkard Christmas. They sizzle against the anvil, pop like scorned lovers. Your nostrils flare, burnt caramel and existential dread. The smith chants a prayer or a curse into tmeṭṭut. Either way, the gold listens. Aztec metalworkers sang to their alloys, believed notes softened stubborn ore. This tune could scare diamonds into submission. A bead trembles, threatens to slide. The smith freezes, hammer mid-swing. Time cramps. Even the dust settles. Then a tectonic clink. Metal marries mold. His shoulders drop. You hadn't realized lungs needed oxygen. The stem stands seamless as a cathedral's first brick. Your thumb itches to touch it. Common sense vetoes. Molten gold's 948 degrees F, same as a crematorium retort. Morbid thought for a Tuesday. The smith smirks, offers tongs. You decline. He chuckles, soundtrack of a chain-smoking cliffside. Midnight oils hiss. Their smoke braids with your shadow. Hammer resumes clink-tink. Clink-tink now sinks to your carotid pulse. Dangerous, becoming part of the machine. Ottoman armorers forged chainmail to the Sultan's heartbeat. One lucky blacksmith got a pacemaker promotion. A cricket creaks, mortal enemy of concentration. The smith lobs a screwdriver, misses. Insectal laughter fades into the kiln's roar. Priority check. His aim stinks. His focus immaculate. Final bead blooms, a molten tulip. Hammer kisses it flat, perfect disc. No reflection. You blink. The stem's done, abstract art turned sacrament. Smith wipes his face. Ash streaks become war paint. No time for vanity. The cup's bowl awaits tomorrow's delirium. He shelves the stem next to a cobwebbed astrolabe. Dust claims it fast. This workshop digests masterpieces for breakfast. You pocket a copper curl, cold now, clench it till your palm stripes. The smith drinks straight from the water bucket, gecko remnants, and all. Legend talks, thirst walks. Outside, a donkey brays C-sharp, if you're generous. The hammer silences it, clink-tink, last word as always. Your spine hums, tuning fork for the unseen. Somewhere, a pharaoh's dentist mixes gold fillings. But that's a horror story for Section 7. The smith uncurls a velvet pouch. Pearls tumble out, each glowing like a blind moon. You catch one cold as a widow's pillow. Berber dowries, prized Gulf pearls, traded across deserts by women who sewed them into camel saddles for safety. These, too perfect for luggage. He threads them onto gold wire, fingers dancing around tiny drill holes. A bead slips, rolls toward a floor crack. You lunge. The smith snatches it midair, palms scarred from decades of near misses. Pearls choose their bearers, he mutters. Story goes, 12th century brides swallowed one gem pre-wedding, said to prevent bad luck. You pocket that fact for future therapy sessions. Chain links take shape, each loop soldered shut with a blowpipe's whispered flame. Fires a flirt here licks metal, but leaves pearls untouched. Ottoman jewelers used hollow needles to blow glass pearls over goose eggs. These lustrous lumps, nature's own magic. The smith buffs a clasp, hinge oiled with bergamot essence. Quirky bit, some Amazigh clans swore citrus oils warded off the evil eye. You inhale sharply, suddenly crave Earl Grey tea. Filigree vines twist around the chain leaves, so thin they shiver in your exhale. Historians still argue whether these patterns map forgotten trade routes or just someone's favorite garden. The smith ignores debates. His chisel etches a scarab beetle into the pendant. Symbol of rebirth or rock-bottom pest control. Take your pick. One pearl refuses to align. It sits crooked, drunk on asymmetry. He frowns, then shrugs. Let imbalance remind her marriage isn't a spreadsheet. Deep cut. Moorish brides wore mismatched earrings to honor life's chaos. You nod, thanking the universe for elopement trends. He tests the clasp. It clicks like a lover's tongue against teeth. Secrets nest here, maybe annulled vows, maybe grocery lists. The chain slithers into a cedar box, its scent already borrowing the pearl's melancholy. Mamluk princes stored jewels in onion-filled coffers to deter thieves. This box, lined with stolen poetry, your pinky brushes a link. It hums middle C, could sworn metal doesn't sing. The smith side-eyes you. Everything's an instrument if your ears aren't lazy. Fair. Marine archaeologists found a Phoenician flute made from melted dowry coins, artifact or marital rage. No one's sure. Sunset bleeds through the workshop's lone window, pearls blush like shy debutantes. He wraps the necklace in raw silk, fabric so old it crackles. Silk Road merchants dyed threads with crushed murex shells, colored deeper than a banker's gilt. This scrap faded to a sigh. Outside, a henna artist trills, her bridal client giggles. Nerves taut as Thesmith's gold wire. The necklace hides under a tarp, innocent as a landmine. Persian legends say cursed dowries sprout teeth after midnight. You check your watch, 7:03 p.m. Plenty of time for poor decisions. He pockets the box, your cue to stop staring. Pearls hate prolonged eye contact, or maybe that's just lonely heiresses. A donkey brays, street musicians duel with lutes, and existential despair. The necklace's new owner will never know its first clasp was forged during a minor key rendition of Hotel California. Your earlobe tingles, phantom weight of unworn jewels. Medieval dermatology journals blamed pearl allergies on excessive virtue. You make a note. Confess more sins. The smith lights a cigarette. Smoke ghosts around his head like misplaced Holy Spirit art. Floorboards creak, apprentice drags, in a sack of turquoise lumps. Next project's hue, regretful Atlantic. The necklace vanishes into a locked drawer, destined to outlive its wearer. As all good heirlooms do, when Carthage fell, Roman soldiers melted dowry gold to mint coins, celebrating the invasion. Poetic justice stings, doesn't it? You pocket a stray pearl, shaving, barely thicker than regret. The smith fake sneezes, oldest trick in the haggler's handbook. You drop it. He grins, snaggletooth gleaming. Tut, tut, bridal karma's a hawk. Wisdom from a man who's pawned 3 wedding bands. Lanterns flicker, oil low. Shadows chew the necklace's outline, spit back something stranger. Dutch still lifes hid pearl metaphors about virginity, fruit flies, wilted blooms. This piece, it's all subtext. A bride might miss it, but her mother-in-law won't. The smith wipes his brow, sweat glues pearl, dust to his wrinkles. Temporary tattoos of excess. Ottoman jewelers were buried with their tweezers. You hope his will specifies no grave goods. The necklace sighs in its drawer, already nostalgic for open air. Your shoes crunch copper shavings on the way out, free glitter. Tonight, you'll dream of hinged boxes and citrus sins. 2 streets over, a betrothed girl laughs, unknowingly echoing the smith's solder torch. The necklace waits. Pearls, unlike people, excel at patience. The smith slaps a silver sheet onto the bench, its surface dull as a sinner's conscience. Tin snips bite down, the screech makes your molars ache. Geometric stars cascade, some 5-pointed, others jagged as a drunk astrologer's doodles. You catch one mid-fall, edges prick your palm like a scorpion's farewell kiss. Medieval Maghrebi mints used similar punches for coinage. Fatimid dirhams bought everything from spices to mercenaries. This batch, destined to dangle from some influencer's septum ring. He flicks a star into a clay bowl. It pings against others like metallic rain. Careful, they're sharper than your ex's prenup. Moorish brides once wore silver star pendants to outshine djinns at weddings. Archaeologists found 14 embedded in a 9th century molar dentistry or devotion. Your thumb beads rubies of blood. A star sticks to your damp skin, temporary tattoo of poor life choices. The smith snorts. Wear it till sunset, cheaper than henna. His shears dissect the sheet with surgical spite. Berber silversmiths hid anti-theft symbols in their designs. A hex here, a serpent's eye there. These stars, pure geometry, or maybe a map of lost oases. Historians still argue whether Nasrid patterns encoded Sufi hymns or just looked sexy on cushions. Shavings coil like metallic tapeworms. You sweep some aside, they cling to your sleeve, glinting with false promises. Ottoman apprentices had to swallow a silver flake daily, said to prevent vanity. Results varied. The smith files a star's tip, splintered light dances across his cheek. Tourists want authentic Berber designs until they realize authenticity stabs. Outside, a vendor hawks counterfeit Roman denarii. The smith's apprentice mutters, about zinc contamination, voice cracking like thin alloy. Genuine Moroccan silver scarce now. Most gets smuggled to Mali for shotgun embellishments. You crane to see the street chaos. He yanks the curtain shut. Distractions make uneven edges, and uneven edges make divorce lawyers rich. A star slips into your boot, cold between the toes. You freeze, the smith's blowpipe gesturing at your guilty stance. Tribes used to punish thieves by stuffing their shoes with hot nails. You kick it free, it skitters into a cobweb. Better, he growls. Spiders need Dacre too. He arranges stars into a constellation. Only he understands. One's bent, he chucks it into a bucket labeled meltdowns. Almoravid era molds held star patterns for standardizing coin sizes, early bureaucracy in action. This workshop, anarchy with better branding, molten silver bubbles in the crucible, its surface, a funhouse mirror of your face. The smith plucks a perfect star, drills a hole with a hand-cranked awl. Iron Age tools meet Spotify playlists blaring Emeli Sandé. You hum along, he side-eyes you. That's a polishing rhythm, not a pop ballad. Silk Road traders timed haggling sessions to loot strums. You switch to beatboxing. He surrenders, tosses you a star to juggle. 3 tosses in, you fumble it no sieves into a goat-fat candle. Flames hiss. The smith rolls his eyes. Saves circus acts for Marrakech Square. Umayyad caliphs employed court jesters who juggled silverware. One got beheaded for melting a spoon. You bow, sweep the star into the meltdowns bucket. Teamwork. Noon light bleachings the bench. Stars lose their malice, blinking up like obedient tin soldiers. The smith rubs one against his stubble testing for snags, smooth as a liar's compliments. Mamluk amulets used polished silver to reflect evil, first recorded instance of shine as shield. You squint at your warped reflection. Did your nose always tilt left? A customer barges in, demands a necklace like Alexa Chung's, but ethical. The smith slides the stars under a rag, shields them from influencer splaining. You escape to the courtyard, pigeons pecking at fallen shavings. Their coos mix with the snip's metallic rasp. Visigoth royals fed their birds silver pellets, twerrent the bright feathers that killed 'em. Returning, you find the smith etching tiny moons onto select stars. For balance, he grunts, no two alike, a philosophy that bankrupts assembly lines. Phoenician traders paid extra for asymmetrical jewelry, believed perfect symmetry attracted sea monsters. Your goblin brain covets the wonkiest one, its points rebellious as a middle finger. He dips stars in tamarind paste, patina blooming like storm clouds. Acid's quicker, but this is spite weathering. Your nostrils flare, sourness masking the street's saffron haze. Sufi ascetics drank tamarind brews to rust away worldly desires. You gag discreetly. Worldly desires now include fresh oxygen. The smith lines them up, a tiny army ready for export. One moon's off-center, his thumb grinds the mistake into abstraction. In Fes, they'd call this the drunkard's guide to the galaxy. You snort, he doesn't. Andalusian poets used star metaphors for both love and indigestion. Ambiguity builds careers, stashing the stars in felt pouches. He hums a Mahmoud Ahmed tune. Ethiopia to Marrakech, trade routes live in his vibrato. Your stolen star winks from the cobweb, spider now sporting a disco ball. The smith follows your gaze. Leave it. Chinese letter needs souvenirs too. Tourists clatter past, selfie sticks like fishing rods for validation. He slumps onto his stool, suddenly older. Almoravid silversmiths worked sunrise to sunset, then partied with Andalusian lute players. You signal the apprentice for mint tea sugar ratio, enough to summon dentists. Stars clink in their pouches, destined for Berlin lofts, Dubai yachts, Majorca trinket shops. Your palms cut throbs, release reminder of metal's bite. The smith bandages it with date palm fiber rough as his empathy, pains just the world saying hello. You grimace. So does he. Crusaders used silver thread to suture wounds. Infection rates were creative. Dust motes swirl in sunbeams. The stars' final audience. He flicks the last one into your coffee cup. Forget the necklace. This'll be your origin story. The liquid ripples silver against bitter black. You drink it. The scorpion's kiss moves south. The smith dunks an anklet into murky liquid. Your sinuses revolt before your eyes do. Vinegar and burned salt. The stench crouches in your throat like a feral cat. 2nd century Parthians used fermented grape, must for etching. Intoxicated armor, terrified Persians. He swirls the metal, twisted vines emerge, hungry as sleep paralysis demons. Citric acids for amateurs, he coughs. Real art requires regrettable life choices. You retreat toward mint tea steeping in a dented pot. Its steam threads the acid fog. Mamlakira recipes prescribed mint-infused vinegar for etching and curing moral miasmas. The first sip scalds your tongue, stages a mutiny. Outside, a donkey brays sympathy vote. He fishes out the anklet, tarnished grooves, now crisp as courtroom lies. Wolves come next. His brush dips into pitch, draws crescent shapes with calligrapher's grace. Some say 15th century Tlemcen artisans encoded anti-Ottoman slogans in wolf-tooth patterns. Others insist they just really liked wolves. Acid hits pitch. The metal hisses like a spurned lover. Smoke tendrils fistfight the lantern light. Your eyes water, suddenly nostalgic for sewer tour. Crusaders mistook such workshops for alchemists' lairs, torched half of Fez hunting philosophers, stone recipes. Now the fun part. He flips the anklet, reveals a scribble of scars. Scorpion venom in the mix keeps the lines jagged. Your eyebrows levitate. Berber smiths once spiked etchants with adder venom to keep pieces breathing. No records of customer survival rates. The wolf's muzzle emerges, snarling at its own reflection. You half expect a growl. Hisham I's concubines wore wolf-adorned anklets to tame royal night terrors. Worked until the coup. The smith prods the design, pitch peels away like dead skin. Another acid plunge, 8 Mississippis worth. Your tea's down to sludge. He offers the ladle, its baptism by stench. Ottoman sultans hired eunuchs just to sniff test etching vats. You decline. Politely. Historians still argue whether Numidian vine patterns depicted actual flora or bad mushroom trips. He buffs the anklet with ashes. Wolf eyes glint beneath the grime. Good enough to sell, too ugly to steal. Geneza scrolls mention cursed jewelry, causing camel baldness. No peer-reviewed studies yet. You nod, wisest stance. The apprentice wheels in a fresh vat. Its fumes melt a fly mid-buzz. Batch 2. Vipers and vertigo. Your esophagus seals itself preemptively. The smith grins, all stained teeth and schadenfreude. North African brides wore these to ward off possessive jinn and mothers-in-law. Twin vipers coil around the next anklet, scales etched with obsessive detail. Your pinky twitches, muscle memory from that snakebite summer. Zirid dynasty royals believed serpent jewelry neutralized poisons, then died clutching their gilded throats. Coincidence? The acid says no. Mint resurfaces as a handkerchief over your face. DIY hazmat chic. He snorts. Weaklings boil mint into tea. Warriors snort it raw. Your nose burns at the suggestion. Umayyad tax collectors used mint to mask the stink of extorted silver. Dusk slinks in lanterns war with acid fumes for dominance. Wolved anklets get tagged with iron stamps, maker's mark. A wilting jasmine, clever forgers in the 1920s copied it. Their skin reportedly peeled off by harvest moon. He tosses finished pieces onto a cedar shelf. Their clatter sings of bazaars and betrayal. You escape to the courtyard. Inhale saffron roasted air like it's parole. The smith follows, wiping hands on goat leather. Sufis claim acid fumes reveal your true face. You check a rainwater barrel, reflections unchanged, mostly. He flicks a viper anklet at your shadow. Keep it. Compliments the neurotic vibe. You pocket it, pure self-defense against etiquette. Street kids cluster at the doorway, moths to the workshop's poison glow. He lobs copper scraps for them to etch, calls it vocational therapy. Almoravid orphanages did the same, except with actual scorpions. Progress. Your new anklet weighs heavy, maybe it's guilt. Maybe rabies. The apprentice trips, spills acid down his boot. Smith's laughter rasps like rusted hinges. Lucky day, now you'll burn proof. You flee into the alleys, anklet clinking, nostrils aflame. Behind you, a single phrase survives the fumes. Historians still argue whether the alley's coolness clings to your skin shock therapy after the workshop's acid bite. Your fingers find the viper anklet, still humming with malicious intent. Across the street, a woman bargains over a toddler's amulet. Its lappy's fish glints like a drop of drowned sky. You inch closer, parental haggling. is the Olympics of guilt trips. The goldsmith here is younger, fingers nervously tapping Quranic verses into a copper band. His bench holds half-finished pieces, a silver hare, a tin scorpion, the lapis fish missing one eye. 8th century Fatimid amulets often left the sole eye vacant until inauguration prevents jinn squatting. The toddler grabs for it, his mother swats air, not until Suraj chants. You want a fish with no ghost. Translation: potential customers want craftsmanship without the creepy. The smith's thumb circles the empty socket, polishing what isn't there yet. Only red coral for the eye, he insists. Lapis without coral is a house without a key. You've heard this before. Byzantine lockets used coral eyes to see through lies. Also caused a brisk trade in counterfeit corallium rubrum. The mother brandishes a chicken egg, local barter currency, since forever. 2 eggs, but my cousin's husband works in the mint. Medieval Fez had egg-backed loans. Defaulters got omelets dumped on their doorsteps. The smith hesitates. This game's older than algebra. You drift toward the fish. Its scales ripple under your shadow. Touch it. The stone's colder than a vizier's empathy. Lapis lazuli veins mimic starless night skies. If the sky was mined by Afghan slaves for pharaohs' death masks. True story. The toddler coos drool pools near the fish's tail. You relate. The rituals at dusk. The smith warns. Suraj needs juniper smoke. A live gecko, freshly stolen honey. Your spine tingles. Pilgrimage sites once sold soul-ready amulets pre-chanted by deaf nuns. Fraud claims outnumbered miracles. Historians still argue whether amulet consecrations were theater or early behavioral conditioning. The mother wins her battle, 3 eggs and a fistful of buttons. The smith pockets his pride. Now comes the coral, a fragment the size of a hangnail. He crimps it into the socket. Pliers screech like jinns in a chokehold. The toddler howls. Empathy pangs hit you like a mule kick. Suraj arrives, a whirlwind of indigo robes and clattering amulet necklaces. She glares at the fish, mutters about lazy lapis and cheap geomancers. Her assistant dumps juniper branches into a brazier. Smoke smells like regret and campfire sing-alongs. The gecko escapes, scampers up your leg. You freeze, traitorous reptile. Hold the child's wrist. Suraj commands your suddenly co-godparent. The toddler's pulse flutters, bird trapped in a sugar cube. Honey gets drizzled over the coral eye, golden syrup on a blood-red pupil. Some claim Carthaginian mothers licked honey from amulets to sweeten their babies' fates. Most just got sticky. Chanting begins, guttural vowels that rasp your eardrums raw. The gecko's tail falls off, wriggles toward the fish. Suraj nods, says it's a good sacrifice. You disagree. The coral eye drinks the smoke, turns glassy, alive. The toddler stops crying, mesmerized by his new aquatic guardian. Done. The amulet gets tied around his neck, lapis, cold against his collarbone. His first wail shakes the market, future lungs of a muezzin. Suraj pockets the gecko tail, souvenir or snack. You'll never ask. The smith beams a rare triumph in the face of entropy. Dust motes swirl where the ritual kicked up antiquity. Your own throat feels scratchy, second-hand mysticism, or juniper allergy. Either way, you crave tea. The mother departs her son's fingers, already shredding the amulet's silk cord. Childhood, humanity's eternal beta test. Emerald shavings cling to your sandals like jealous lovers. Each step crushes a fortune into the dust. A lanky apprentice glares. His brush hovers over molten wax, sealing a decree. Fatimid caliphs used emerald dust for official documents. Cleopatra's mines kept supplying green long after her asp nap. His hand quivers, glittering powder bonds to the wax with desperate finality. Hold your breath, he hisses. You exhale too soon, flecks spiral into a malformed scarab. Now it's a welcome mat for tomb robbers, he grumbles. Welcome to the VIP section of bad decisions. The wax cracks, a hairline fracture mocking eternity. Pharaohs stuffed their sarcophagi with cursed charms. Historians still argue whether the spells killed excavators or their own paranoia did. Your tongue probes gritty teeth. The dust tastes like betrayal and poor life choices. A bead of sweat drops from the apprentice's nose, ruining his 7th attempt. Salt preserves meat, not legitimacy, you offer. He doesn't laugh. Byzantine assassins allegedly slipped emerald powder into wine turns out renal failure, trumped even the best antidotes. You palm a speckled fragment. Its edges bite like a scorned cat. Medieval lapidaries believed emeralds cured dysentery. They were half right. Swallowing them definitely stops you eating. The apprentice grabs a goose quill, dips it in glue thicker than a sultan's ego. The green hides tampering, he explains. Your mind drifts to tax collectors. Some professions never change. He blow-dries the seal with his breath, hot air already fluent in bureaucracy. Lamplight flicks across the wax, now hardening into a liquid prison. Ottoman marriage contracts used such seals. Wives carried them like arsenic handkerchiefs. You lean in. The scent is part wet chalk, part mind regret. A fly kamikazes into the adhesive, immortality achieved through sheer annoyance. The apprentice picks it out with tweezers, adds it to the decoration pile. Authenticity, he deadpans. Your chuckle gets lodged in the dust, a future archaeologist's cough. He hands you the finished scroll. Its seal glints with borrowed malice. Blow on it, he insists. Tradition demands the client's breath animate the pact. Your lips purse, air whispers over the emerald crust. Suddenly your mouth tastes of mummy wrappings and stolen opiates. Pharaoh's curses cling like over-perfumed ants. No escape, only awkward endurance. The apprentice nods, says you've married the artifact. You make a mental note, never RSVP to history's wedding. Goat-hide drapes swallow the marketplace's roar. Sudden silence rings louder than any call to prayer. Your lungs hitch, even the forge's eternal gasp holds its breath. 17th century Berber workshops favored camel leather for insulation, but goat hides absorbed gossip better. A century ago, a Tunisian jeweler allegedly wove curses into his curtains. Historians still argue whether they muted sound or other hungers. The bench glows. Molten gold swirls in a clay crucible like liquid sin. Your reflection warps in its surface, a funhouse mirror version of temptation. 3 charcoal braziers hum, their heat strokes your neck with kitten-rough tongues. That apprentice from the scroll incident lingers outside. You hear his sandals shuffle. Let him marinate in regret. A moth dives into the crucible, becomes a wisp of charred ambition. No one warns you about the smell, part honey, part scorched fingernails. Mamluk artisans believed gold purified through fire could detect lies, hence the melted moths. Your pinky hovers over the rim, discretion wins. Barely, the smith materializes, his aprons stained with orpachok residue. That alchemist's fool's gold. He grips a blowpipe, its glass belly pregnant with incandescent air. Your spine tingles, recalling Venetian merchants who blew poison into rivals' drinking vessels. His cheeks balloon, the flame bends sideways, defying physics, defying sanity. Molten glass drips onto an anvil. It's the amber of a tiger's yawn. His hammer descends. A comet's tail of sparks licks your forearm. No pain, just adrenaline's sour aftertaste. Ottomans called this the devil's dew, those fleeting burns that harden into gem settings. You count breaths. His 7th strike births a perfumer's vial. He nods to a copper basin. Its water glints with dissolved lapis. Cool the pride first, he croaks. Dipping the vial, steam hisses like a deflating tyrant. The glass whispers secrets as it hardens. Arabic numerals from a 9th century Damascus manual materialize. No etchings, just math haunting the curves. Your thumbnail tests the rim, a hangnail snags. Now you're part of the artifact. Geneticists traced 2% of modern Syrians to glassblowers' guilds, silicone in their DNA from generations of inhaled fumes. Try explaining that at family reunions. A tile slips underfoot, you grab the bench. Your palm meets warm dents, generations of panicked grips, fossilized in oak. The smith snorts. Carowean Library's floor has deeper grooves. 13th century students carved them during all-night cram sessions. You mutter about OSHA compliance. He doesn't get the joke. Fair. Midnight leaks through the roof's thatch. A cockroach skitters over ingots. Its antennae tap the gold, Morse code for abandoned hope. The smith flicks it into a mortar. Crunching pestle announces another unplanned alloy. Your stomach growls. He tosses you a date stuffed with almonds, says it'll silence the inner critic. Dates, nature's duct tape. The blowpipe's tip grazes your ear, frostbite heat. His eyes widen apology or adrenaline. Fatimid physicians treated burns with fermented barley paste. You opt for dignity. The vial gets wrapped in raw silk. Its folds still smell of smuggled Ceylon cinnamon. 9 grams, the weight of a smuggler's promise. Outside, a mule brays at a mercury merchant. The smith freezes, mouths police. Your thumbs knead the silk, packaging as innocent as a nun's laundry. He stuffs the vial into a lamb's femur, wax seals it with a thumbprint. Shares a sliver of cum and gum. Chewing neutralizes telltale breath. Classy. Boots stomp past, spurs clinking like demented wind chimes. The smith hums a Tuareg lullaby, veins in his neck writhe. 16th century Marrakech had a secret unit policing gold purity. They dissolved suspect jewelry in aqua regia. No body, no crime. Silence resurfaces, thicker now. He unwraps a licorice root, gnaws it like a toddler with vengeance. Your jaw aches in sympathy. Andalusian dentists used licorice sutures. Patients either healed or fled the sweetness. The femur gets tossed into a basket of sacrificial bones. Dinner tomorrow. Likely. Candles gutter, twin wicks drowning in their own wax. The smith yawns, reveals a molar capped with electrum. For emergencies, he shrugs. Your mind flashes to pawnshops, cathedral monstrances melted down for dental work, God's grandeur repurposed. Dawn's first razor cut pierces the curtains, the vial's numerals blaze. Your pupil shrinks too late. Retinal ghosts will haunt you till noon. He tosses a silver dirham into the crucible, watches it scream into nothingness. Accounting, he says. Some receipts burn prettier than others. Roosters crow. The market's murmur seeps back in unmuffled, vulgar, alive. Goat hides flap loose, their spell broken. Your shoes crunch fresh emerald dust. Some curses just keep giving. The smith wipes his brow with a silk scrap. It's monogrammed, someone's missing a handkerchief. Someone rich. The smith slaps a goatskin bundle onto the bench. It uncurls, with a sigh older than your bones. Inside, a dagger hilt crusted in something darker than tarnish. Its rubies glare up like congealed bloodshot eyes. Your pinky twitches. 17th century Saadian princes carried these treason detectors disguised as jewelry. Historians still argue whether the dynasty fell from poison or hilt-bound curses rubbed raw by paranoid thumbs. Polishing cloths unfurl, linen so starched they crackle like dead leaves. Each swipe reveals silver inlays, twisted thorns framing Quranic verse. Your knuckle brushes a ruby, cold seeps up your arm. 9th century Iraqi chemists claimed gemstones could store memories. This one's clearly an angrier librarian. The smith spits on the hilt, spittle sizzles. Stolen from a French museum, returned to rot in some minister's safe. His rag digs into crevices. Black flakes snow onto the bench. You taste iron, or is that the ghost of the blade's last thrust? Ottoman assassins favored groin-level strikes, maximum disgrace, minimum noise. A hairline crack splits the pommel inside, glints a sliver of papyrus. The smith freezes. Sultans hid divorce decrees there, quick way to demote wives during coups. Your lungs tighten, royal marriages dissolved faster than sugar in mint tea. He scrapes the thread. With a needle, it disintegrates. No secrets today. Just as well, Moroccan archivists found love poems in a sultan's knife hilt last year. Heat radiates from the rubies, or maybe that's your guilt, who hasn't pocketed a hotel pen. Your cloth snags on a jagged divot, the bench shudders. The smith grunts. Moulay Ismail's henchman chipped that during a persuasion session. 17,000 slaves built his palaces. Yet his favorite tool weighed 9 ounces. Suddenly, the hilt warms, not metaphorically. Your palm sweats. Almoravid texts warned of blade fevers, metal retaining victims, final temperatures. You drop it. The clang echoes like a dentist's drill. The smith chuckles. Happens with the chatty ones. Midday sun stripes the rubies, their glow turns nasal blood crimson. A fly lands, dies instantly. Coincidence? Probably, but your neck prickles, same as when spotting a snake in loose gravel. He buffs the thorns, their edges soften under lanolin grease. This killed a midwife in Fez, then became a child's teething toy. Parenting was wild back then. The cloth blacks out. 3 scrubs later, you're holding moonlight. Your stomach growls. The smith tosses a fig. It bursts. Seed jelly resembles congealed plasma. Appetite gone. He nods at the hilt. Want to know its name? Zainab's smile. The punchline never comes. Voices erupt outside. A tourist berates a carpet vendor. The smith rams the dagger into a sheath made OFIS, that human hair. Berber widows wove these, kept their husbands' daggers loyal post-divorce. You file that under romance tips to avoid. Suddenly, the hilt sticks to your palm, dried blood's last prank. The smith pours rosewater. It swirls pink down the gutter. Marrakech's soil drinks more history than any scholar. Your fingers prune, prunier than a raisin's ego. He examines the sheath's knotwork. Threads from the maker's beard, 15th century quality control. You itch to Google medieval OSHA standards. The dagger winks, catches a sunbeam for half a heartbeat. It's sheathed in fire. Your nail picks at the leather grip. An eyelash flutters free. Human, goat, djinn. Discretion says stop, curiosity wins. The smith slaps your wrist. Leave the dead their eyeliner. Fair. Dust motes swirl. The dagger's shadow stretches into something serpentine. Both you blink. It's just a knife again. Probably. Almoravid warriors slept with blades under their pillows, dreamt of venomous scarabs. Correlation. The smith shrugs. He balances the dagger on his forearm, edge barely kissing skin. Waited for throwing or buttering bread. Depends on the century. A pigeon lands on the windowsill, takes one look at the rubies, pecks, a hasty retreat. Wise bird. Your elbow bumps a crucible. The dagger reflects molten gold. Now, it's a candy apple from hell's farmer's market. Acidic smoke tickles your molars, same as disconnect calls with your ex. The smith licks the blade, your entire bloodline gasps. Tastes like gunpowder and pomegranates. Standard Thursday. He's either insane or Shakespeare's next tragic hero. Sweat drips onto the bench, the wood hisses. Both of you stare. That's new, he mumbles. 10th century Andalusian. Grimoires mentioned weapons weeping sign of a soul transfer. You're underhydrated. Let's go with that. Tourists pass, their selfie sticks cast cross-shaped shadows. The dagger hums, low C, vibrating your molars. Safi al-Din tuned blades to musical notes, said steel sang during executions. His grin suggests a playlist request. You decline. Dusk bleeds across the rubies, their fire dims to embers. The smith wraps the dagger in lambskin. Its new sheath resembles a tiny burrito. Death by carbs, poetic enough. Your neck aches, hours hunched like a question mark over grief made tangible. The smith pockets 30 silver dirhams, stained with something that'll never wash out. You pocket a splinter unwise, but souvenirs beat therapy. Cats yowl in the alley. The dagger pulses once in response. Coincidence, obviously. Probably. As you leave, your shadow stretches dagger thin, a twin pointed at the moon. The city swallows your footsteps, appetite whetted for stories, not yet dulled by polish. The smith hands you a lump of beeswax, warm as fresh bread from a Tangier bakery. 18th dynasty stuff of pharaohs filled tombs with these, he mutters, thumbing a chisel. Your nose wrinkles, heat clogs the air with melting honey and burnt almonds. Ancient Theban priests used wax funerary flowers. Historians math it at 3 per noble's coffin. This rose under your blade's edge, 400 petals and counting. Each ridge gleams, carved with a hypodermic's precision. Your pinky slips, a stray curl of wax clings. Now you're wearing Cleopatra's tears as a cuticle. Lighter than gold, sweeter than myrrh pisses off termites. The smith winks, shaving a thorn into existence. 17th century Marseille apothecaries swore melted votive candles cured baldness. Their ledgers list 53 patchy dukes as satisfied. Stale coffee steeps somewhere, its burbling sinks with your blade's scratch. Petals curl, edges thinning to translucence. One wrong breath could shred this ghost of a bloom. Ottoman garden manuals warned princes roses taught to grow by moonlight wilt at dawn's spit. Your wrist cramps, the chisel digs too deep. A gaping hole yawns where a stamen should vein upwards. The smith snorts. Mady, the lazy botched Amenhotep's lotus burial wreath, got mummified alive as QA. Historians still argue whether that ledger entries punishment or promotion. He tosses you a new block, impossibly white, smelling of drowned lilies. You press thumbs into its center, creation, myths in miniature. Wax blooms under pressure, nature's origami without the paper cuts. Sudden humidity warps the air. A customer barges in clutching a photo. My mother's favorite flower, she stabs at the image, a poppy flattened in some dictator's manifesto. The smith nods your already boiling crimson dye. Melting wax hisses, its bubbles whisper conspiracy theories about Versailles candle makers. That scandal involved 9 kilos of earwax smuggled in perfume vats. true story. The woman eyes your progress. Her pupils dilate like aperture settings for grief. Cooling molds line the bench, 59 petals ranked by size. You assemble them clockwise. Egyptian stars aligned for Osiris. Approval. 1 petal's edge ridges match your fingerprint. Future archaeologists will call it artisan's intent instead of sweat-slick panic. Lamp smoke stains the rose gray in patches, time-lapsing decay. The smith dabs blue pigment into the heart. Tut's florists used lapis this. Nail polish from the margin supermarket. Your nose burns. Acrylics mimic eternity at 30 dirhams a bottle. Stem wires pierce the base, a spinal tap for botanicals. You twist them tight, metal veins humming with manufactured life. Byzantine metalworkers first braided thorns onto funeral roses. Their contracts specified enough blood drawn to please Persephone. The customer weeps. Snot drips onto the bench. The smith shields the rose with his palm. Salt water etches waxen tissues are over there. She dabs her face with a scarf. Its sequins scratch prayers into her cheeks. Candle flickers catch the petals. Your shadow puppets a rose, eating its own thorns. Mamluk shadow plays used this trick. Political satire dissolved in tallow smoke. Finished, you dunk the rose in ice water. It screams louder than a cat in a bidet. Steam fogs your glasses. The bloom glistens in aftermath, perfect and vaguely accusatory. The customer's hug cracks 2 petals. Burial practice becomes modern art. She exits clutching her mother's poppy redux. Joy so sharp it reeks of formaldehyde. Leftover wax pools around the chisel handle. You peel it free. The shape. A tiny fetus curled around a doubt. The smith flicks it into the brazier. Poof, parented, avoided. 300 years from now, he coughs. Grad students will x-ray this bench, declare us geniuses. Flames lick the rose's twin, the one with the hole you'd botched. Wax drips, a dying centipede limping towards the gutter. Nightfall brings a shy teen with a mason jar. Inside, ashes swirl like dandelion fluff trapped mid-wish. For my sister, she loved roses. You're already measuring wax, 2 pounds of might-have-beens. Your blade hesitates, air too heavy with elegy. The smith lights juniper incense, its smoke braids around your wrists. Parthian mourners laced pyres with juniper to prevent ghosts from hitchhiking home on embers. Midnight oil stains the rose's veins yellow, jaundice masquerading as gilding. The jar's ashes mingle with molten wax. Carbon flecks orbit the petals like trapped constellations. Finished, you present it. The teen's lips move, soundless. Her breath rattles the petals, an almost lullaby. 10 seconds pass. She's both here and halfway into the afterworld. The smith returns her fee, silver coins wrapped in a Surah Yasin photocopy. Tell your sister roses hate vases. Bury it near roots. She leaves cradling the bloom. Pavement stones bow under her footsteps. Alone again, you poke the cooling dregs, ethical dilemma, congealing at the bowl's bottom. 18th century Venetian law required waxworkers to sign their funeral wreaths, haunted if unsigned. Your fingerprint glows in lamplight, one whorl singing remember, one ridge hissing forget. The smith extinguishes the flame. Darkness turns the workshop into a tomb's antechamber. They always ask for roses. He yawns, grinding pigments into lidless jars. Never garlic, never onions. Wonder what that says about eternity's spice rack. A petal snaps under your elbow, fragility wins. The rose's twin wilts on the shelf, 8 hours of labor, sagging into abstraction. Your knuckle brushes it, warmth lingers, too alive to burn, too dead to trade. The muezzin's pre-dawn cry filters through charcoal dust. Somewhere, a widow kneels, placing wax roses where her husband's lungs once bloomed. Somewhere, a museum labels your flaws, intentional distressing. History smooths all edges, even the ones that cut. Camel bells punch through the workshop's drowsy hum. Those brassy clangs, so aggressively cheerful, you half expect a TikTok influencer to burst in hawking desert excursions. The smith freezes, hammer hovering over a half-formed bangle, like a stork reconsidering a frog's life choices. Outside, a mule brays sound so pitchy it could crack the Atlas Mountains into pebbles. Silk swirls into view first, scarlet bolts wrapped around a haggler's arms like ceremonial bandages. He's all teeth and eyeliner, shouting about Saharan salt, so pure it'll pickle your ancestors' regrets. Behind him, a Tuareg trader unloads indigo-dyed sacks. Each thud kicks up powder that glitters like grounded constellations. Your tongue shrivels, air's suddenly salted enough to cure a walrus. Gold for salt, salt for silk, silk for lies. The haggler winks, palming a dinar from the Tuareg's belt. 17th century caravans once trekked from Timbuktu to Marrakech, 4 months of camels spitting and sandblasted toes, just to balance ledgers with tiny brass weights. You lean closer, those weights still litter desert dunes along with mummified merchants who skimmed a gram too much. The smith flicks a gold sliver onto his scales. Sodium chloride's older than Pharaoh's and twice as bitchy. True Roman soldiers got paid in salarium argentum, hence salary. Try buying a latte with a salt lick now, see how that goes. A camel nudges the doorframe, its lashes frosted with salt dust. You scratch its chin, leathery wrinkles swallow your fingers up to the knuckle. Legend says Tuareg guides spilled salt at each crossroads. Believed demons couldn't traverse the white trails. Smart until the rainy season turned their anti-ghost moat into margarita mix. Silk unfurls, sunlight snags on threads wound tighter than a coroner's stitches. The haggler boasts of Bukhara patterns, so intricate they hypnotized Genghis Khan into sparing the weavers. Doubtful, but you swipe a fingertip across the fabric anyway. Scales itch, your skin remembers being a silkworm's brunch in some Qing dynasty naptime. The smith snorts. 1 bolt for an ounce of gold. Your mama breastfed you greed. Haggling erupts, voices ricochet off copper pots, amplifying into a cacophony dengbej singers would envy. Fun fact: Ottoman silk tariffs listed bribes as thread lubricant. Historians still argue if it enriched empires faster than trade or raids. Salt crystals hit the scales, prisms scattering light into rainbow shivs. You pocket a granule, let it dissolve under your tongue. 10 seconds of pretending you're a human margarita before the bitterness hits. The Tuareg whispers, this salt, from a lake that whispers during eclipses, drowns liars who touch it at midnight. His gaze flicks to the haggler, now sweating through his silk. Gold melts in the crucible, a slow yawn of liquidity. The smith pours it into ingots thinner than a politician's promises. Mali Empire's Malian Mansa Musa once flooded Cairo. With so much gold, its economy barfed for a decade. You hum, imagine being the guy who accidentally breaks capitalism with a donkey caravan. Silk rustles. The haggler drapes a swath over your shoulders. Wear this, guaranteed to seduce sultans or tax auditors. It smells of rancid butter and poor decisions. You counteroffer 3 dirhams and a stick of juicy fruit. He clutches his chest, theatrical as a telenovela widow before conceding. Victory tastes sweeter than stolen wedding cake. Outside, camel hooves scritch-scratch over cobblestones, a sound that's basically ASMR for nomads. The Tuareg presses a salt chunk into your palm, cool as a glacier's tear. For your tea or your enemy's eyes, his laughter follows him into the souk's throat, echo, devoured by spice stalls, and the reek of drying sheepskins. The smith weighs the remaining gold, face lit by screensaver-level flickers from the forge. Every trade's a divorce, you lose a piece, gain a scar. He nods at your silk, now draped over the anvil, already sipping lamb fat from the air. Heat shimmers warp the room for a heartbeat. The haggler's silhouette merges with a hologram of medieval merchants. Same teeth, same hustler spirit. Just swap out camels for crypto wallets. You half expect him to whip out a Venetian ducat and ask if you take Apple Pay. Dust motes swirl, caught in a shaft of sunlight too dramatic for its own good. The smith wipes his brow leaves, a salt streak glowing like a poorly aimed halo. Somewhere, a donkey's indigestion mirrors your inner turmoil. That oily silk stench has seeped into your sinuses. Bargain achieved, but at what cost? He tosses you a date stuffed with almonds, sweetness that doesn't erase the salt, still sharp on your lips. Caravan bells fade, drowned out by a shopkeeper across the street screeching about discounted babouches. The smith murmurs, they'll be back, salt dissolves, silk phrase gold outlasts gods. You crinkle the silk, its rustle mimics a scorpion's stroll across parchment. Then toss it onto a crate of flawed garnets. Let future archaeologists untangle that vinyl versus vellum identity crisis. Crucible coals, dim, shadows eat the workshop whole. But the salt chunk in your pocket still itches, throbbing with silent smugness. The sundial's fractured face stares up from the workbench, cracked lines converging toward a missing gnomon like accusations. It's older than the concept of minutes, a relic from when shadow lengths decided harvests and executions. Historians still argue whether Almoravid scholars used mercury for repairs or just liked watching liquid metal roll uphill despite gravity. Your nail traces hieroglyphs worn smoother than a liar's conscience. 12 decades I've buried, 11 wives, 10,000 lies. The owner's voice had crackled like burning papyrus when he handed it over. His deposit: 3 chicken eggs and a lock of hair from someone who definitely wasn't his current spouse. Mercury winks in its vial, a stolen pond of quicksilver. You've heard, whispers alchemists claiming it contains frozen starlight. Fringe types insist it traps souls mid-scream, explains why old barometers give people existential vertigo. The smith warned you one spilled drop could summon a djinn with a grudge and a PhD in pettiness. Silence isn't a choice now, it's a third entity in the room. Even the forge's embers mute themselves, ash drifting downward in apology. Your eyelashes graze skin. The sound amplifies tenfold like moth wings slapping a cathedral bell. Fragments fit together wrong edges millennial in their resentment. Sundials hate haste. You knew one in Fez that stabbed a restorer's thumb for rushing true story, or at least a great excuse for bandaged sympathy. Mercury trembles, reflects your warped face back in funhouse mirrors of blame. A drop falls, hissing through cracks like a snake fleeing paradise. It pools beneath the bronze, an angry Mercury, amoeba plotting revenge. 8th century manuals swore Mercury could mend temporal devices by aligning celestial impatience, code for prey like hell, and bill extra. The gnomon's replacement glints fresh zinc, alloy a heretic's intrusion. Original materials matter. Phoenician sundials used meteoritic iron, unobtainable since eBay banned interstellar shipping. You blow dust off an inscription. Wind carries it straight into your sinuses. Now historians centuries hence will carbon date your snot. Moonlight slithers through cracks in the roof, competition for your flickering oil lamp. Mercury glows under dual illumination, silver trails squirming like bards' tailies. Touch it, the cold bites lingers in your fingerprint spirals. Myths claim Mercury, fingerprints curse lovers to meet only in dreams. Your ex's face flickers. You scrub hands raw on goat hide apron. Breath held you drizzle Mercury along the largest fracture. It seeps inward, defying physics and common sense. Repair manuals never mention this, the liquid metal's sentient reluctance. It creeps, pauses, inches backward. Somewhere a desert fox laughs, or maybe that's just your sanity unspooling. 3 drops left. The smith's mantra echoes. Repair is negotiation, not dictation. You offer the vial a copper coin. Bribery works on bureaucrats and possibly malevolent elements. Mercury laps. It upleaves a tarnished aftertaste. compromise achieved. Shadows convulse, the sundial's cracks fuse with metallic veins. Your pulse thrums loud enough to wake mummies. One final adjustment, aligning the gnomon with Polaris. You twist bronze squeals like a stepped-on jerboa. Suddenly, a shadow dagger stabs the noon marker. It's done. The smith materializes, no footfalls, just a presence thornier than a cactus handshake. He exhales. Air swirls dust into our numerals. Cleopatra's astronomers calibrated these using prisoners' heartbeats, still more humane than Apple Watch battery life. Dawn bleeds across the bench. The sundial drinks light greedily. Mercury dulls to a resentful gray, mission accomplished. Somewhere a rooster crows, or maybe a hungover muezzin. You slump muscles screaming, but the shop's silence already softens, ready to swallow the next requester of impossible resurrections. The oil lamps hiss, each flame nursing its own conspiracy with the midnight air. You tilt a wick, shadows leap, become giants straddling mud brick walls, painted by dynasties of soot. Your elongated silhouette stretches, knuckles brushing the smith's outline, two monsters fused at the wrist. A childhood riddle surfaces. Dew-merged shadows share a single soul or just split the rent on darkness. Candle molds line the back shelf, discarded by Carthaginian traders when they realized wax burns faster than empires. Mainstream museums will tell you ancient Maghrebi lamps burned olive oil, but the charred almond shells underfoot whisper juicier truths. Your pinky grazes a fresco fragment, crumbling ochre spirals. Historians still argue whether these symbolized protective prayers or just medieval price lists for mutton. The smith's whetstone rasps, a sound felt in your fillings. His knife reshapes a candle stub pairings fall like miniature tectonic plates. You catch one, translucent wax warmed by his palm. Some say craftsmen's skin oils imbue objects with fortune, others insist that's just haggle talk for overcharging tourists. Shadows thicken, your conjoined outline now etched into the wall's memory. 13 generations of apprentices lean in with you bodiless hands guiding your chisel. 8th century guild rules required smiths to work barefoot, to feel the earth's whispers through calluses. You wiggle toes in grit, feel phantom souls pressing against yours from 1224 AD. A lamp gutter spits, the sudden light fractures your shadow child with the smith. For a breath you see a third figure knotted between you, arms tangled in smoke. Old Berber wives swore workshops gestate guardians from dust and overtime. You blink, it's gone, but your nape prickles like a watched back in a souk alley. Your knife slips, nick the workbench. The scar joins 37 others, scoring the cedar, each groove a midnight mistake immortalized. Modern carpenters would sand them away, but here flaws get tenure. The smith hums, a tune archaeologists attribute to Moors exiled from Granada, or possibly the menu song from a Tunisian fish cart. Draft snakes coil under the door, sand-filled stockings sewn by the smith's late wife. Threads fray, one bursts, grains skitter like roaches fleeing disclosure. You recall her laughter, how she'd mend bellows with hairpin sutures. The smith still won't explain why her tombstone lists her occupation as sunlight thief. Hands cramp, you've been pinching that chisel since twilight. Muscle memory takes over, the tool guides your fingers now. Funny how professions reshape bone. Your right index bows, left like a palm tree fleeing coastal wind. The smith's thumbs, flattened from hammers, could double as soup spoons in culinary emergencies. A moth dives into lamplight, wings singe, its corpse spirals into the wax pot. Crisis conversion, you fish it out now, it's a wick, morbid but efficient. Cremation via candle beats whatever cathedral bureaucracy moths endure in the afterlife. The flame burns greener, proof of insect superstitions, best left unresearched. Moonlight bleeds through a crack, illuminates the corner where apprentices once slept. Their charcoal doodles linger. Crude camel's dice, a surprisingly accurate sketch of a master's nose hairs. Generations of bored teenagers weaponizing art, the true foundation of civilization. You add a speech bubble, free me from bronze fumes. In pidgin Arabic, fatigue hits your shadow, slackens, melds completely with the smith's. Legends claim fused shadows trap souls in shared purgatory. You test this, lean left, he shifts right, no resistance. Turns out afterlife rumors have worse traction than donkey carts on wet cobblestones. The oil sputters, dying. You reach for the refill jug, halt. Let shadows consume the room. Bronze tools dissolve into the dark. Only their sounds remain. A file's rasp, the anvil's a rhythmic heartbeat, the smith's breath syncing with yours. Workshops don't die, they just fade into the permanent maybe of unlit corners. Your spine creaks upright, a marionette pulled by dawn's invisible strings. The smith snaps his leather apron, dust motes explode into a final ballet. Shadows detach, your silhouette shrinks, suddenly ordinary. But the wall remembers. Always, the apprentice's fingers tremble. A hairline crack splits the ring's band like a dried riverbed. He freezes, molten gold still drips from the crucible above, a single tear of failure. You watch him calculate loss, the weight of wasted metal, the hours spent coaxing form from stubborn ore. Soft blows, murmurs the smith, his voice sand-polished by 63 years of teaching. He lifts the fractured band, twists it, until sunlight glints through the break. 8th century guild records reveal apprentices owed their masters for botched materials, paid in years of extra labor or goat cheese. The boy flinches, expecting fury, but the smith's callus drags gently across his knuckles instead. See here, he taps the flaw. Your hammer feared its own song. Next time let it scream. The furnace yawns, the ring vanishes into glowing coals. Historians still argue whether medieval smelters added eggshells to strengthen precious metals, or if that's just an omelet rumor gone global. You inhale carbonized dreams, the stink of ambition reduced to ash. A joke hovers something brittle about engagement proposals, but the apprentice's quivering chin kills it mid-reach. His shadow wilts against the wall, rehearsing apologies to a sweetheart who'll never wear his would-be masterpiece. You remember your first failure, a dagger swallowed by the Nilelid's hilt still orbiting your ribcage on sleepless nights. The smith stirs embers. With an iron rod, melody fragments rise like fireflies. 14th century troubadours allegedly stole their best rhythms from Marrakech forge songs, though lute enthusiasts deny this with alarming violence. Gold pools, an accusing eye, while the boy mumbles verses from his mother's morning prayers. Your turn. The smith offers the ladle its handle, wrapped in decades of singed linen. The apprentice hesitates, then pours liquid sunlight into a new mold. His grip's too tight, knuckles blanch, but the stream holds steady. You half expect the metal to rebel leap sideways into tragedy, but it settles docile as a taxed donkey. Cooling sand hisses beneath the mold. Your boots stick to resin spilled by some ghost apprentice in 1402. The smith winks, pockets the ruined ring's remnants. Craftsmen once wore failure tokens as pendants, sardonic trophies against perfection's tyranny. Heat ripples warp the air. The boy's face melts, reforms, melts again. Dawn seeps through the workshop's lone window, a buttery smear across anvils. 3 finches land on the soot-caked sill, their chirps sinking with the bellows. Wheeze. One hops toward the apprentice, tilts its head, and defecates on a copper ingot. The smith barks a laugh it echoes through generations of trapped dust motes. Good omen. He lies straight-faced, means your next piece will outlive the stars. Someone's stomach growls yours. The boy's, maybe Hannibal's war elephant memorialized in the wall cracks. The smith produces a date cluster stale, but sweet enough to glue teeth shut. You count 63 ancient olive pits embedded in the floor. Archaeologists found similar pits in Carthage slag heaps. Proof snack breaks transcend empires. The new ring emerges, still hot enough to brand skin. Its surface ripples like a goldsmith's version of goosebumps. The apprentice licks his thumb, polishes furiously, trying to erase every microscopic flaw. His reflection warps in the curved gold, a funhouse mirror version of potential. Enough. The smith stills his hand. Perfection is a camel that runs from its own shadow. Outside, a donkey brays at a merchant hawking counterfeit Roman coins. The boy exhales, tucks the ring into a lambskin, pouch sets it beside 17 identical failures. Nodding to himself, he stokes the fire anew. Tomorrow's crucible will claim another, and another, until his hands learn the alchemy of mercy. Ashes swirl, cling to your eyelashes, blur the workshop into a grainy photograph. Somewhere beneath your feet 14 layers of ruined treasures ferment. Future diggers will debate whether these were ritual offerings or just a boy's heartache rendered in aubergine clay and stubborn hope. The quill's nib skids, ink blue enamel pools into filigree grooves, like water finding drought-starved cracks. Your wrist remembers last week's soldering burns. Each twinge sinks with the brushstrokes. 10th century Andalusian manuscripts swear enamel pigments held ground lapis lazuli. But the smith's stash reeks of crushed parrotfish scales. You dip again. The quill's feather tickles your knuckle. Ancestral whispers mist through the workshop's tobacco-stained air. Left to right, like the Nile's last lament, mutters the smith. His shadow looms, judging every capillary pull of pigment. You trace a branching pattern, stems bowing under invisible fruit. Historians still argue whether these arabesques mimicked underground aquifers or the veins of mythical djinn. A bead of sweat glides down your temple, threatens to drown the cobalt channels. You catch it with a linen cuff. 37 embroidered thorns bite your forearm. 18 generations of enamelers wove curses into their work shirts, a petty armor against clumsy apprentices. The smith snorts, taps a warped vial labeled Carowan, 1121. Its glass bulges, suspiciously, like a smuggled firefly chrysalis. Thicken the belly, here his chisel points to a curve, or it'll crack like Fatimid pottery. Lamplight bleeds through the enamel, transforms the filigree into a skeletal cityscape. Your pulse hiccups. Suddenly you're etching a dead queen's culvert system. The quill jerks, splattering a sapphire comet across the design. 15 years ago in Fez, a master enamelor allegedly poisoned his rivals' indigo vats with camel urine. You dab the mistake, watch it bloom into a new tributary. The smith grunts, a sound that means adequate save. He uncorks a clay jar, mint and vinegar sting your sinuses. Moorish artisans used this brew to fix wayward pigments and sterilize stab wounds, if merchant gossip rings true. A fist-sized dent near the jar's base winks. Someone once threw it at a tax collector's head. Filigree teeth gnaw at the enamel, hungry for more. You feed them, stroke by patient stroke. Somewhere beneath the workbench, mice debate stealing your discarded blotting rags. Their squeaks harmonize with the quill's scritch-scratch, a minimalist symphony. The smith leans closer. His breath smells of yesterday's apricot pits and tomorrow's regrets. Decades back, a Frenchman offered me 50 camels for this technique. His chuckle rasps like a saw through nickel, told him my blue drinks better than his brandy. A scarab beetle skitters over your foot, its carapace glossy as fresh enamel. You resist the urge to squash it. Entomologists insist their bad luck in workshops. The smith flicks it toward a cobweb. Gossamer shudders, catch and release. 3 more dips, the filigree drowns in nightsea blue. You exhale, the candle gutters. Ancestral mumbles swell to a chorus. A woman's voice rises above the drone. The river bends twice before the betrayal. Her words ripple through the pigment, staining your cuticles cerulean. Archaeologists found similar phrases etched inside Almoravid feeding bowls meant to curse gluttonous husbands. Your pinky twitches, etches a tiny sigil beneath the main pattern. The smith notices, says nothing. His silence costs more than criticism. Outside, Muezzin calls fractal through the Medina's honeycombed alleys. The enamel hardens, capturing that precise blue of dusk, surrendering to lamplight. You tilt the piece, watch shadows pool in its valleys. Craftsmen once floated trial enamel works on the Tigris. Sinking ones were deemed unworthy. Here the test is simpler. If the smith nods, you live. He nods. Your spine liquefies, sweat trickles into forbidden places. The scarab returns, trails gilt dust across the bench. Somewhere, a hammer strikes down clink, a half-second flat. Tomorrow this enamel will cling to a vizier's necklace or a milkmaid's heirloom spoon. The quill lies spent, its feather molting memories. You snap the nib, an offering to the ink-stained gods. The smith pockets the sigil-marked piece. His palm eclipses it, swallows the proof of your doubt. One-handed, he lights a taper fused with rosemary and myrrh. Smoke coils, spells a word in Maghrebi shorthand. You pretend not to read it. Progress. Wind sneaks through the workshop, stirs the enamel's surface. 100 phantom rivers wake, whispering roots to places that bleat, or bloom, or burn. You follow their cadence, just another tributary in the delta. The workshop's goat-hide curtain twitches. A woman's hand emerges first, knuckles starved of henna. Her wrist hovers above the measuring cord, trembling like a sparrow mid-molt. Widows in 12th century Marrakech wore silver cuffs for 9 lunar months. This one's forearm still bears the imprint. Too soon, you think. Her jalaba reeks of orange blossoms and ammonia, the twin stench of fresh grief. The smith grunts, drops a spool of silk thread between you. Measure 8 hand spans from sorrow to bone. His joke lands like a dropped anvil. You unwind the thread. It sticks to her sweat-beaded skin. Historians still argue whether these bracelets stifled remarriage or marked women as untouchable by mortal woes. Her pulse thrums through the fiber. Your fingers become conspirators. She flinches when the thread tightens, her 4th finger's paler where a ring once dug, now just a dent in flesh. A 1930s Casablanca pawnbroker's diary claimed some bracelets held vial slots for tears, poison, or ground mummy dust. You glance at the smith. He shakes his head. Keep it simple tonight. 7 3/4 spans, you say. The lie tastes like charity. She nods, digs coins from a drawstring pouch. Dirhams clink onto the bench. One rolls toward the charcoal pit. You let it glow red hot. Pretend not to notice. Ottoman widows allegedly slipped cursed coins into rivals' wells. This one's penny might have dodged a darker fate. Her perfume clings after she leaves, citrus and salt fogging the air. The smith flicks a cockroach off the measuring thread. That's 38 customers this month wanting memory bracelets. He spits into the forge, sizzles accent his disdain. As if metal can shrink a missing body back to scale, you sort her coins, avoid the one now welded to the hearth. Carthaginian widows wove hair into funeral gold, but modern law bans human material. The smith eyes your hesitation. Use zinc for the base, softens the lies. His chisel etches a serpent, eating its own spines. The pattern du jour for unspoken regrets. Molten zinc pours into the mold, a sound like frying locusts. Your mind replays her shudder when naming the clasp type. Box fastener, please the kind that doesn't click. In Fez, click-clasp bracelets were called widow's teeth, rumored to bite new suitors. You file the edges smooth, cover sharpness with suede. The smith leans in, forgot the mourning mark. He stamps a tiny black lotus near the clasp, Mamluk tradition. 8 petals for the years, she'll outlive him if the customer knew the code. You buff the stamp until it's a ghost. Let her invent her own symbology. Outside, a donkey brays at the moon. The bracelet cools in date syrup brine. Old wives swear it prevents tarnish and pardons small sins. Your shears snip the suede lining. Suddenly you're 7 years old, gutting your mother's wedding cushions. The smith coughs, a sawtooth rattle. She'll be back before the crescent moon wanes. For adjustments, to pawn it. His certainty curdles the air. You polish the lotus mark back into existence, a stubborn truth. Later, stuffing cotton into the presentation box, you find a single gray hair coiled like a spring. Vulcanized or accidental. No strand lasts 7 centuries unless dipped in honey and regret. A moth spirals into the forged dyes in a blue wink. The bracelet's ready, a perfect hollow 8. Dawn licks the workshop's threshold. It'll wait here, patient as a scorpion under rock until she returns. Or doesn't. The smith flicks ash onto the coins. Her abandoned penny glows faintly. You pocket it. Let fate decide who's owed. The smith's youngest daughter tiptoes in henna blooming coral across her knuckles. Her fingertip hovers over solder lines, barely cooled from your latest pour. You catch a whiff of jasmine oil. She's raided her mother's vanity again. Goldsmith apprenticeships started at 8 years old in Fatimid, Egypt. But her father lets her tame the metal spirits whenever school sups drag. She pokes a half-formed amulet, its wax lion missing a mane. His name's Bribri, she announces. Historians still argue whether medieval Maghrebi workshops used child labor or just tolerated tiny saboteurs. You swipe the amulet, smirk at her pout. Bribri's getting a gold mane. Real lions don't whine. Her giggle flutters like a moth against glass. Henna stains smear as she grabs tongs, mimics her father's hammering stance. Berber lore claims a girl's laughter anneals weak alloys, but the copper wire she's mangling screams otherwise. Look, she dips a henna'd palm into the tempering bucket. Water ripples distort her reflection into a grinning ghoul. I'm the Janet river nymph. Bet I can float a dinar. You flick her earlobe, dodge the ensuing splash. 18th century traders swore drowned coins attracted river demons, though this pest needs no supernatural help. The smith grunts, tosses her a scrap of silk. Make Bribri a cloak. She drapes it over the amulet, starts crooning a wedding song. Her voice cracks on the high notes. You're suddenly 7 again, watching Marrakech tailors sew ceremonial camel blankets that apprentice had henna'd hands to until he vanished into the Atlas mines. She mispronounces vermilion as very million, you let it slide. Her heel kicks over the flux jar, powder snows onto the floor. Oops, djinn footprints, medieval Persians painted flux as trapped desert spirits, a story you'll omit while sweeping. The amulet's wax base softens under her breath. Bribri says thank you. She whispers, presses a sticky thumbprint onto your wrist. You're branded now, a temporary tattoo of all her chaos. Some Sahel tribes used honeygum mixtures to glue blessings onto skin, but this feels like a hex. Her father snaps his fingers. She bolts upright. Homework now. She groans, grabs the amulet. Bribri's coming too. He hates fractions like me. The workshop sighs as she exits. Molten bronze seems duller without her shadow. You salvage the sodden silk, twist it into a rose. Beneath the bench, her forgotten hairpin winks, a cheap bauble shaped like a phoenix. Teenage, you would have pawned it for fig treats, but now you tuck it into the solder drawer. Let her panic search for it tomorrow, the forge mutters as daylight fades. Somewhere beyond these walls, Bribri the wax lion endures long division. You etch a henna vine onto a scrap tin, hide it under her usual stool. 73 days until her 9th birthday, a real apprenticeship's looming hourglass. Rumor claims Ibn Khaldun's niece designed Nasrid Palace tiles at age 6, but historians dismiss it as dynasty propaganda. You blow graphite dust off the work table. Watch it settle like phantom henna. The daughter will return at dawn, all sticky fingers and misspelled myths. For now, let the solder lines harden. Let Bribri guard her dreams. The Saharan trader's shadow stretches across the workbench, a gaunt silhouette clutching a goat-hide bundle. His indigo veil reeks of mule sweat, and myrrh modern tagine spices can't mask that musk. You pretend to inventory brass weights. Fatimid merchants standardized these scales 8 centuries ago, but the bundle's twine snaps anyway. A meteorite chunk thuds onto the anvil, pocked and veiny like a god's discarded lung. Every craftsman inches back. Even the smith's thumb jerks away mid-polish. Ottoman records mention stones that sang when cut. But this thing's presence feels like a cat arching its spine at thunder. From Timbuktu's burning sky, the trader rasps. His fingernail taps the crust. A B-flat rings through your molars. Historians still argue whether medieval Songhai smiths used celestial iron for blade cores until Mali's emperor banned it as sky theft. The note fades, your back teeth throb in unison. The smith reaches, pauses, reaches again. His file bites the meteorite's edge. A harmonic drones, not metal, not stone, a sound that bypasses ears to vibrate your liver. The smith's eldest freezes mid-stride, his war-scarred face slack. 17th century marabouts claimed certain ores held djinn choruses. But this melody curdles the grease under your fingernails. Stop. The trader slaps the smith's wrist, your breath returns like a snapped rope. He rotates the meteorite, reveals a pulsating bluish vein. File here if you dare. His smile shows 3 gold-capped teeth, replacing molars, was a status symbol in Mamluk trade circles. The smith hesitates. You grab the file. Let history judge. The vein offers 0 resistance. Your stroke unlocks a perfect A-sharp. Workshop tools shiver in unison, pliers buzz, hammers hum. Your fillings ache. A 1992 UNESCO study, FOUND, Chinese letter in Saharan forges. But those scientists never tasted fierce sweat while a space rock crooned. The trader chuckles, drops a velvet pouch. Half now. Dinars spill out, 2 bear the false mint marks of kilns sacked during Barbarossa's raids. You pocket them anyway, ethics blur, when universe fossils croon lullabies. The smith's daughter bursts, in homework clutched, braids askew. Bribri solved 3 fractions. She freezes, eyes locked on the meteorite. Her henna'd finger drifts toward its surface. You swat her hand. Berber miners told children meteorites ate bad dreams, and occasionally fingertips. The trader leans close, his breath smells of tamarind and tomb dust. It remembers the stars. His thumb brushes the vein. The A-sharp softens to a mother's hum. 18th century Turkish circumcision rites used meteorite rods, said to grant boys cosmic resilience. The smith's daughter tugs your sleeve. Is it alive? You lie smoothly, just fancy iron. But when the trader repacks his prize, the workshop's shadows cling to it, stretching like taffy before snapping back. The smith lights extra lamps. Perspiration glints on his neck. Nightfall brings a hushed argument. Smith versus trader, gestured not spoken. Their fingers flash silver for knowledge, danger for profit. You eavesdrop while polishing a Mycenaean-style brooch. Its spirals mimic waves that drowned ships 4,000 years ago. The deal concludes with spit palm handshakes, old caravan ritual. The meteorite stays as the trader vanishes into alley fog. The smith locks the chunk in an ironwood box lined with lead strips from a Carthaginian shipwreck. Smart Phoenician traders, ONC, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, by meteorite compasses before volcanic ash ruined their resonance. The daughter lingers, tracing the box's carvings. Can Bribri visit it? You tweak her braid, only if he masters fractions. Her groan harmonizes with the box's faint hum, a dissonant third that buzzes your molars until dawn. Dawn's second blush stains the workshop floor. A sliver of rose gold light licks the ironwood box. Its hum has settled into your jawbone overnight, a vibration like gnawing on foil. The door creaks, not wind. A woman stands framed by apricot sunrise, her shadow stretching over the anvil like a gilt stain. Her hands quiver around a bundle linen, wrappings so old they've fossilized into crisp waves. From my husband's, before the Franks, she avoids pawn like it's a scorpion under her tongue. The smith nods toward his cash box, Ottoman silver mostly, plus 2 phony dinars, still warm from your pocket. Unwrapping the crown feels like skinning a mummy, Tudor-style arches crusted with diamonds, except the gems pucker under their settings like bad welts. You tilt it, sunlight skitters off fissures, each flaw a tiny lightning bolt. 18th century Versailles sparkled with paste replicas during riots, real gems sewn into horse guts and buried. Historians still argue whether the 1784 Bombay jewel heist was an inside job. Half the stolen rubies grinned up from a governor's privy. The smith grunts, thumbnail testing a diamond's edge. 50 years back, this would have bought 3 camels and a concubine. Now it's a party tiara for bankrupt aristocrats. His loop reveals worse, sloppy epoxy globs, a carbuncle pretending to be a ruby. The widow flinches when he taps a fake emerald. It clinks like a tavern mug. He swore it was Fatimid. Her whisper reeks of aniseed candies, a childhood scent clinging to decay. You recognize her now silk merchant's wife, turned sour by French tariffs. Her husband's sudden illness last winter smelled of arsenic and unpaid debts. The smith offers 3 silver dirhams and a spool of copper wire. She protests too quiet, fists clenching her veil's frayed hem. Mamluk law demanded haggling, but desperation curdles the air thicker than sheep-fat candles. He relents, adds a crescent moon pendant from the apprentice's scrap pile for your granddaughter's naming day. The lie slides smooth as old brass. She pockets the coins. The wire gets knotted into her braid, a snake of false security. Once her footsteps fade, the smith wedges the crown into the ironwood box. Its arches frame the meteorite chunk. Both hum now, vibrating at a frequency that loosens your fillings. Even false light deserves a second sky, he murmurs, though his eyes say easy to be generous with someone else's clunker. You flick a fake diamond, it pops loose, rolling toward the forge. The apprentice scrambles after it stops short. There, in the soot, a crude T scratched near the crown's base. Toulouse 1997. The smith snorts, tourist trash from Marrakech, Medina. But his polishing rag lingers on the engraving. By noon, heat warps the air, each breath tastes of molten lead. The crown's remaining gems bleed prismatic smears onto the workbench. You're counting fractures 9, 10, 11 when the widow's voice screeches from the alley. Thieves, jackals. The smith slams the shutters. Too late. She's howling at a donkey cart. Its driver shrugs, mouth full of date pits. Her copper wire glints in the gutter, traded already for a sack of moldy flour. The crown shivers in its box. You press a palm to the lid. The meteorite's harmonic drops an octave, comforting if you ignore how your molars ache. Nightfall brings the smith's eldest home. His new rings, missing-tongued serpent glares at the crown. He mutters in Hassania something about Bavarian collectors and easy fakes for easier fools. The smith ignores him, filing the Toulouse mark into oblivion. You pocket the discarded fake diamond, warm as a lie. Outside, the widow's curses have dissolved into the muezzin's call. Somewhere, a tourist adjusts their new antique tiara while the stars watch, unimpressed. Moonlight stripes the bench through barred windows. The smuggler's jade winks at you from its woolen nest. You unwrap it. Slow, raw silk whispers warnings against your calluses. 16th century Mughal carvers drilled poems into jade hilts, their verses now grit under your thumb like sugar crystals. Torchlight catches the stone's veins. Dendrites squirm like finger bones caught mid-stitch. Alive, isn't it? The apprentice leans too close. Pine resin sweat betrays his all-nighter. You spin the jade. Its underside winks green gold. UV light would expose the real party, rumor says. Fake Mughal pieces hide Kama Sutra engravings under family-friendly patinas. The smith banned blacklights after that incident with the Persepolis urn and the embarrassed archbishop. Lawmen's boots scuff the alley cobbles, 3 pairs, maybe 4. The jade plunges into your sash, cold against navel sweat. Silk muffles its heartbeat, or maybe that's your own pulse thudding in misdirected guilt. The smith fans ledger pages, loud as a startled pheasant. Yusuf's buying Ottoman hinges, he barks. Innocent words, a code older than the shop. You nod, pluck a half-finished anklet from his bench. Pretend to inspect its clasp. Boots pause outside, shadows probe the door's edge. Your tongue sticks to a truth. This jade's greener than the queen's favorite emerald. And heavier. Historians still argue whether the Koh-i-Noor diamond's curse began with poor cleavage angles or a pissed-off lapidary's final breath. One lawman coughs, a phlegmy smoker's hack. The apprentice freezes mid-reach, his fingers hover over the arsenic jar. Stupid boy. You nudge a bucket of rivets. Their clatter drowns his twitch. Torch smoke veils the room, sudden and convenient. The smith's doing. His forge vents have accidents more often than a Fez politician's conscience. You breathe, shallow charcoal-tinged air coats your teeth. The boots move on muffled grumbles about Ramadan curfews. Silk chafes your waistband. You're suddenly aware of how many gifts you've smuggled in that sash. A Byzantine dye, a drugged honeycomb, last Tuesday's pistachio baklava. The smith flicks a tongs toward the meteorite chunk. Sing to it. You press the jade against the star metal. Their vibrations harmonize like a cat's purr meets a war drum. Mughal miners believed celestial stones dirged their earthly twins. You're pretty sure that's crap, yet your arm hairs rise like supplicants. Dawn leaks through the window grill. The jade's veins dim to mere moss trails. Somewhere beyond the Medina, a customs dog sniffs empty crates. The apprentice exhales. His relief smells suspiciously of date wine. Polish the lot. The smith tosses you a chamois cloth worn translucent. You obey, rotating the stone until its surface swallows torch flames. 20 minutes pass, or 30. Your reflection warps in the jade's curves, nose elongated, eyes slitted. Imperial artisans claimed this distortion revealed one's true essence. You look like a hungover ferret. Commission bells jingle a customer. Too early, the smith's eldest shoulders in, rifle slung like a baby. His serpent ring flicks a tongue at the jade. Bavarians want carvings, nude ones. He leers. The smith snaps his ledger shut, a sound like a bone breaking. Tell them we sell jewelry, not European pornography. But his finger traces a cracked mosaic by the door ancient, barely visible. Is that a dancing girl or a date palm? Depends who's funding the dig. Noon prayer shakes the walls, the jades safely bricked into a false kiln. You wash your hands, scrub harder when greenish streaks cling to your cuticles. Lunch is yesterday's couscous. Every grain seems to watch you. Lawmen return at twilight, politer this time. They ask to tour the workshop. The smith serves them mint tea, so sweet it glues their mustaches. You sweat through 3 jokes about incompetent camel traders, each punchline met with blank stares. When they lift the meteorite, your gut lurches, but the eldest lawman winces. Allah's teeth, that's heavy. He drops it, luckily missing his toes. Their search grows half-hearted. One pokes the anvil like it'll confess. Midnight, the jade emerges, cooler now, quieter. You secure it inside a shipment of blessed Zamzam water containers. The smith etches fake Meccan provenance stamps. His engraving needle sings forgery, forgery, forgery. With each stroke, stars wheel overhead as the caravan departs. Somewhere in Vienna, a collector awaits his prize. Somewhere in Delhi, a museum weeps for lost heritage. You lick couscous grit from your teeth. The jade's vibration hums in your molars. Your knuckles blaze white around the chisel, its oak handle worn smooth by 3 centuries of desperate grips. Across the bench, the smith's hammer taps a staccato requiem, tink, 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 each strike thinner than Quran parchment. Historians still argue whether Damascus steel's wavy patterns came from Indian iron or the bones of crusaders melted down for scrap. You don't care right now. The blade shivering under your palm feels older than God's first lie. Muscle memory bends your wrist before your brain protests. The tool guides you like a puppet. Your chisel bites. A silver curl springs free. The hammer answers. Rhythm replaces thought. 10th century Andalusian goldsmiths called this state alans, the intimacy. You call it not puking from exhaustion. The smith's hammer trembles. His hands, usually steady as pillar stones, twitch like sparrows. Those hands once shaped a crown for a Moroccan princess, who later traded it for a Spaniard's kiss. True story. Or so the hash vendors swear. You notice his pinky finger locking mid-swing early arthritis or late-stage devotion. A bead of sweat detours around your nostril. How colonialists mined Ghanaian gold using hollow reeds and slave breath. You shake the thought loose. Focus. The pendant taking form isn't some museum relic. It's a commission for a Marrakech socialite who thinks bespoke means complaining in French. Midnight yawns into itself. Your thumbnail cracks, a crescent of grime wedged deep. The smith snorts, tosses you a rag soaked in fig vinegar. Sweat rusts, steel faster than tears, he growls, a saying from his great-grandfather, or a beer mat slogan from that Tunisian bar last spring. Lamplight warps around your quenchant bucket, water stolen. From a Sufi well 5 blocks east, superstition says it cools metal without shocking its spirit. You dip the blade, his screech steam. The sound startles a gecko off the ceiling. It glares from the windowsill, tail thrashing. Again. The smith points at a flaw only he sees, 5 hours in or 6. Time crumbles like mortar. Your chisel finds the groove that Damascus steel sings under your assault. 10th century Persians believed blades quenched during Ramadan held sharper edges. Modern metallurgists roll their eyes, then quietly test the theory during conferences. The hammer slips, catches the smith's thumb. He sucks the wound iron and saffron. A drop smears the ledger, appropriately grim. Centuries from now, scholars will dissect that stain, wonder if it's royal blood or pomegranate syrup. Your spine howls. The gecko licks its eyes, lucky bastard. Somewhere in Cordoba, a museum displays Moorish tools just like yours behind glass. Labels screaming, "Do not touch." Idiots. Hammers don't soul steal. They hunger for calluses. Dawn's first bruise purples the sky. The smith squints at your pendant. The chain loops are uneven. True, they sway like drunk cobras. He hesitates, slaps a copper ingot between you. Fix it, but use the left hand twist. Left hand. Of course, Phoenician jewelers spiraled metals counterclockwise to honor Tanit's sacred swastikas. Or was that Etruscan nail makers? Doesn't matter, your fingers rebel. The chisel jerks and gouges the bench. 200 years of master carvings now host your shameful scratch. The smith chuckles sound of a rusted hinge. Tools train us, make us their mirror. The pendant's chain mocks you, each link a miniature Gordian knot. Alexander's solution was cheating. You lack a sword. Outside, Muezzin calls ricochet off Medina walls. The gecko flees. The smith prays forehead to anvil. You count the chisel's nicks instead. 37 or 38. 1 for every time you've botched a soldering seam. He rises, offers the hammer. You stare. His palms creases map Marrakech's alleys yours, show subway lines from a city you haven't seen in 9 years. The transfer happens in silence. Wood meets flesh, warmer than expected. You strike. The hammer floats. It's swinging you. Muscle fibers sing in a language predating nouns. Damascus, steel's watery patterns ripple alive again. The smith nods. Somewhere Cordoba. A museum alarm blares. Glass shatters. A hammer smiles in its case. The festival gong's last bronze shiver hums in your teeth. The muezzin begins. Their voices braid darkness into dawn. You press a thumb against the bench woodgrain grooves match your fingerprints now. Goldsmiths once believed Allah carved the first anvil from Adam's rib. Archaeologists found Viking-age mold stones under Marrakech's gates. Proof, perhaps, that hammers speak every tongue. The smith's forehead leaves a salt stain on polished cedar, a new ellipse in the bench's constellation of prayers. His lips move silently. You catch the word malachite between holy verses. Reasonable when your world fits on a 3-meter bench. Even gods get inventory reports. Outside, a street seller's cart squeaks, iron axle whining in time with your pulse. 18th century court records exempted metalworkers from dawn prayers during Ramadan if midsodder. Historians still argue whether this was pragmatism or baklava bribes from the guild master. Pine resin smoke stings your eyes, or are those unshed tears? Doesn't matter. A Berber proverb claims tears dilute a craft's baraka. You blink hard. The pendant's chain, now left twisted, catches first light like a prisoner grinning through bars. The smith rises, knees popping like green wood in a fire. He studies your work nods once. The Phoenicians would have drowned you for that spiral. His great-granduncle shackled Carthaginian war elephants. Family tailies stretch thicker than bullion wire. You flick a silver filing into the quench bucket. Plink. The water puckers, shadows of long-emptied cities rise. Medieval chemists drank quenching fluid to preserve memories before battle. Another plink. You crave mint tea suddenly. Sunrise glares off a half-polished zodiac medallion, Capricorn's horns gilded with Ghanaian dust. Modern jewelers use lasers. This smith uses a monocle and owl's patience. It's just cataracts, but the lie feels holy here. A donkey brays, the smith's head snaps west. Cald's late, his apprentice soldering smiles onto funerary masks, detained by dervish whirls, or a spice seller's filigree-collared daughter. Both require forgiveness. Your knuckle cracks, adjusting the clasp, sound echoing palace locksmiths, testing secret knocks. Legends say Fez doors, encoded craftsmen's joint pops. You try 2 cracks, the tool chest stays shut. Worth a shot. The smith unwraps linen, date-stuffed bread steaming like spirit escaping a tomb. You bite, hit a pit, fortune or sloppiness. He winks. Bastard. Lamplight gutters the last wick, drowning in its own wax. Smoke spirals upward, mirroring your chain's left-hand twist. Phoenician. Etruscan. Still the prettiest mistake, since mistaking mercury for gin. Dust motes swarm a sunbeam, angry as robbed bees. The smith coughs a powdered turquoise, clouds his breath. Tibetan, Congolese, geography bleeds here. Every inhalation's an empire's autopsy. He gestures at the door, dismissal or invitation. Outside, saffron vendors yawn, silver-capped teeth, catching light they'll never afford. You linger. A 14th century forge slave's palm print stains this wall. Your hand nears theirs across centuries. Nearly. The muezzin's final note dissolves. The smith spits, misses the spittoon. always misses. Umayyad caliphs judged gold purity by spit skidding on hot ingots. You've tested it, poets, not metallurgists. Your shadow slips under the bench, a shamed cat fleeing piety. They'll find you here skeleton fused to tools, grinning at jokes only anvils get. The smith farts, a rude coda to transcendence, so much for holiness. The smith's fart hangs sour in the air, a rupture between sacred and human. The door creaks open before your laugh escapes. A beggar stands framed by first light, his bowl dented brass, hammered thin as a king's excuse, gleams with generations of palm oil polish. 14th century Tunisian caravans used such bowls to measure saffron, stamped with the Sultan's fox head crest. This one's fox is toothless, ears worn to nubs. He stretches it toward you empty. No coins clink, no jingling plea, just a vessel holding absence like water. His right eye weeps, amber left pupil swallowed by milky desert haze. You dig into your scarf's folds, sticky dates cling to linen. Drop them in. 3 plops 5, 7. The bowl becomes a tableau, wrinkled fruit on tarnished metal. He doesn't thank you, doesn't move. His nostrils flare. Dates smell richer here than in any palace. A bead of sap slides down the bowl's rim-catching light. You've heard beggars spit on alms given without coins. Old wives swear it curses the giver's trade, but his tongue stays still. The smith sniffs loud. Ibn Battuta wrote about date-hoarding thieves in Mogadishu, hid jewels in the pits. His chisel scrapes filth off a ring. Check them might fund your retirement. You don't check. The beggar's thumb strokes the bowl's rim, fingertip tracing where a craftsman's signature once burned through. 9th century guilds fed paupers, but banned coin gifts. Historians still argue whether it stemmed from generosity or tax evasion. Sticky light glues your gaze to his face, hunger and pride thrashing beneath sun-cracked skin. A date pit pops under his molar, shattering the stalemate. He retreats, leaving the bowl at your feet. Brass winks up, suddenly too intimate. You kick it gently, it rolls, wobbling like a shot partridge. Keep it, the smith mutters. Polish the dents out, sell it to French tourists as authentic despair. Wind steals through the door, lifting the beggar scent, myrrh and unwashed feet. Your tea has gone cold, bitterness coats your throat. That milky eye, you've seen it in Coptic funerary portraits, saints squinting through eternity. Dawn pins your shadow to the wall, stretching it gaunt as a starved hound. The smith spits, hits the bowl. Saliva skids across, brass slides off. Umayyad spit tests, what a joke. You lick your own palm, press it where the beggar's thumb lingered. A prayer, a theft, both maybe. Market cries erupt outside. Egg vendors haggling, donkeys honking their melancholy. Life resumes, but the bowl remains a crater in your peripheral vision. The smith tosses a rag over it, fabric swallowing the gleam. They never stay, he says, hammering too hard on a copper cuff. 2 dawns from now, he'll stagger into the Atlas foothills. Let jackals take the rest. You pocket a date pit, an amulet against certainty. The rag twitches, micro-shudder of brass against stone. Forgotten, but not gone. Like Carthage's drowned harbor, or the first lie you told a lover. Cocks crow. The smith's elbow bumps yours, passing a crucible. Gold inside winks, mocking the bowl's mute hunger. You weigh both in your mind, precious and base, full and empty. Centuries condense into this breath. He grunts. Melt it down tomorrow. You don't answer. Today, it's a relic. Today, it matters. Your fingers sink into warm beeswax, the workshop's last defense against precision. Carved amulets and chain links swim in the trough, ghostly white against hammered copper. Lost wax casting predates the Roman Empire. Malian craftsmen perfected it, while Europe still dressed in furs. The smith kicks the clay furnace, charcoal, embers cough, sparks onto your sleeve. Watch the sprues. He grunts, nodding at wax tendrils, connecting each piece. Break one, and the gold bleeds, out ruins the whole litter. 19th century Parisian jewelers secretly added ground mummy remains to their wax, swore it prevented tarnish. You resist, sniffing your palms. Molten bronze gurgles in the ladle, a sound like molten honey. Pouring, feels obscene, liquid metal devouring wax tombs. Steam hisses through clay vents, the stink of burning follicles. A bead of sweat carves a path down your spine. Silk robe, now a passive enemy. The smith scrapes cooling slag with a nail. Persian emperors melted wax models of enemies, thought it gave them power over traitors' souls. His laugh rasps dry as papyrus. Historians still argue whether lost wax casting bubbled up from Timbuktu or leaked westward from pharaonic ateliers. You chip at the hardened mold. Clay chips pepper the bench like shrapnel. First peek. A necklace's spinal column gleams, golden vertebrae fused in eternal slumber. Each link winks, mocking the wax ghosts that birthed them. One pendant remains half cocooned, a filigree scarab missing 3 legs. Fix it, the smith says, tossing you a graver smaller than a cricket's femur. Your hand betrays you, tremors scribbling jagged lines into the gold. He clicks his tongue. Timbuktu apprentices had their hands boiled if they shook disinfected the weakness. Candlelight bleeds across the piece, defects vanish in forgiving shadows. You think of the beggar's bowl, how its dents hold more story than any palace chalice. The scarab's lost legs become intentional abstract, beauty's just damage with a charming backstory. Dawn leaks through louvers, striping the scarab with jailbar shadows. Molten wax puddles on the floor sculpting Rorschach blots. The smith stomps one flat. Looks like your mother's face if she mated with a squid. Women's laughter trills outside. The henna artists arrive next door. Their gossip melts through the wall. She sold her wedding bangles for a donkey, said the beast listened better. The scarab's eye socket gapes, hungry for a stone you can't name. You rub resin over the flaws, filling crevices amber thick. Copal smoke stings your nostrils, memories of childhood incense and dentist offices. The smith flicks a cockroach off the bench. It somersaults into the cooling trough. Bronze meets carapace, a tiny scream. Done. He tilts the necklace toward a dust beam. Sunlight ricochets off its curves. 7 generations of brides wore pieces like this, sweating under their veils at the Nile's edge. You half expect the scarab to stir antennae, twitching toward abandoned wax. A crash outside. A donkey cart vomits pomegranates across the street. The smith pockets the necklace. Your protest dies unspoken. Finish the molds. He yawns, crushing a wax blossom underfoot. And bury that cockroach. It's staring at me. Residue clings to your cuticles, golden jam in the grooves. You rinse hands in lemon water, acid-biting hangnails awake. The workshop's rhythm resumes. Clinks, curses, the hiss of quenching metal. Somewhere beneath your ribs, a wax model of this moment hardens, ready to be melted down tomorrow. The workshop door groans, a new note in its rusty aria. You turn and freeze. The smith's eldest leans against the frame, his left cheekbone fused to his temple by scar tissue. Ottoman mercenaries recruited Berber sharpshooters for Balkan campaigns, paid them in lead bullets and sour wine. His right hand's missing the pinky, the remaining fingers clutch a velvet bundle. He tosses it at your chest. Inside, a ring colder than a smuggler's smile. 2 serpents coil around the band, one has no tongue. The metal bites your palm, a warning. Father's eyes going. His voice grates sand in a mortar. Took 8 months to carve a bastard's melted down 5 others. The smith doesn't look up. His chisel hesitates, though. A micron-deep scratch mars the filigree. Legends claim Algerian warriors swallowed vipers' tongues before battle, thought it made them immune to betrayal. You count the ring's scales, 600. 7. The tongueless serpent stares, hungrier than the other. Rubbish alloys. The smith mutters, palming the ring. His thumbnail tests the engraving. Too much lead sloppy. Historians still argue whether Ottoman war jewelry contained intentional toxins, poisoning both wearer and foe. The eldest snorts, drops a foreign coin on the bench. It's heavier than it looks. Squinting, you make out a 2-headed eagle Byzantine. Bulgarian. The smith pockets it. Put that abomination in the cellar with the cursed amulets. His son grins, scar tissue pulls his lip into a snarl. You carry the ring downstairs, each step darker, damper. 3rd century traders buried live scorpions under their shops, believed they ate bad luck. Your sandal crunches, a cockroach carcass seems the smith's method works. The cellar air clings, wet wool slapped over your face. Hinges scream as you open the iron chest. Inside, a menagerie of botched jewelry. A brooch shaped like a hanged man, a bracelet etched with blistered saints, a pendant oozing verdigris. The ring joins them, serpents glinting in the matchlight. That missing tongue feels intentional, a silenced witness. Back upstairs, the eldest's gone. A single drop of blood mars the bench. The smith buffs it away with turpentine. Never trust a soldier who survives 9 battles, he growls, makes you wonder who he sacrificed to duck the 10th. Outside, a mule brays, its pitchfork loaded with date palms. You glance at the cellar door. The tongueless serpents still down there patient as a landmine. Dawn bleeds through the workshops. Single high window. Raw gold bars blush under its gaze. You lift one warmth lingering from the crucible's last kiss, its edges softer than they look. 16th century Maghreb smiths doubled as bankers. Your thumb traces groove marks from 1,000 haggling thumbs. The bar's weight surprises, heavier than regret, lighter than hope. You set it on the scales, brass plates shiver, counterweights clink, lead pellets from Visigoth bullets traded for salt in A.D. 700. A ledger lies open column after column of ounces converted to dinars. Promises to lies. Green tea steeps on a brazier. Its steam fogs the smith's spectacles. He peers at you, calculating how many mornings remain before his hands forget their craft. 3 fresh bars glint their surfaces, still rippling like molten skin. Dawn-cast gold was once deemed magical, crushed into elixirs to cure cowardice and impotence. You imagine a Mamluk warlord gagging on golden grit, his armor clanking as he chases bravery down his throat. The smith flicks a mosquito off the nearest bar leaves, a smudge of charcoal. Polish that again. He grunts. Clients want to see their vanity shining back. A cat slinks in, smeared in indigo dye from the dyer's stall next door. Its paws leave lapis trails across the ledger, turning ancient debts into abstract art. The smith doesn't notice. He's weighing a love token, a ring sized for a child's finger. Historians still argue whether Muwallad brides wore miniature jewelry to ward off djinn, or just mourned smaller tragedies. Your bar's stamp glows, a lioness with crescent moons for eyes. Catalan mercenaries smuggled this design into Algiers, fused Berber symbols with Gothic teeth. You heft another bar, this one dented from a clumsy mold. Raw gold feels alive somehow, thrumming with all it might become. A sultan's molar crown, a merchant's bribe, a slave's hidden ransom. The smith pours tea into a copper cup, liquid arcs steaming through the stillness. He nods at the scales. Your turn. You add weights, 7 bronze frogs, and a scarab carved from onyx. Balancing feels like solving a riddle where both answers end in blood. 8 ounces, the bar's exact weight. A rare alignment, the smith's mouth twitches. Approval. Through the window's thick glass, Marrakech's minarets sharpen in the light. Muezzins haven't called yet, the city's holding its breath. You press the gold to your cheek. A chill seeps through despite its glow. 9th century alchemists swore buried gold, absorbed daylight, spent nights, whispering solar secrets to the soil. The bar stays mute. Its silence feels deliberate. Footsteps echo in the alley, a knife. Grinder's cart clatters past. The smith tenses, his neck tendons writhe like lute strings. You pocket a bronze weight without thinking, its frog shape fits your palms sweat. Guilt arrives late, a timid guest. When you sneak it back onto the scale, the smith's watching. His laugh rasps. Thieves make the best assiers. They know true weight. Sunlight hits the bars fully now. Pink surrenders to brazen yellow. You squint, their glare etches after images, bloated coins, snapped necklaces, teeth fillings. The smith wipes his spectacles. Every war ends here, he mutters, melted down. Hammered thin forgiveness never sticks to gold. Outside, a camel sneezes, its groan rattles clay jars on the shelf. One tips dried locusts from a failed harvest spill across the floor. The smith curses, sweeps them into a dustpan. He pauses, holds one up to the light. Could have been flour. He shrugs, could have been a plague. The ledger's dye-stained page dries. Indigo paw prints now frame a transaction. 37 ounces payment for a daughter's dowry. You wonder if the cat's a disgraced accountant reincarnated to disrupt fiscal order. The smith slams the ledger shut, bugs scatter. Gold's scent clings to your knuckles, sweetness cut with the forge's acid tang. 2 bars remain. You lift them together. Their combined heft strains your wrists. Baghdad's caliphs stored gold in honey jars. Believed beeswax purified greed. Honeycombs would have wept through these sticky ethics, trapped in hexagonal cells. Tea leaves swirl in your cup. A stray strand forms a crooked Zion. The smith sees. It spoons sugar over the omen. His youngest daughter skips past, henned fingers clutching a half-soldered hairpin. She eyes the gold bars, whispers, "Can I eat one?" The smith flicks a locust at her. Breakfast's cheaper, he lies. Noon's heat approaches. The window's rectangle of light retreats. Gold dims still, regal in shadow. You run a thumb over the lioness stamp, her moon eyes blind but all-knowing. The bars feel different now, colder, final. Unmade futures pressed into ingots, each a tombstone for possibilities too tender to survive. The muezzin finally calls, the city exhales. You place the last bar on the scales. Balanced, perfect, useless. The door groans shut. Night swallows the clinks, the heat, the prayers. Above the workshops fade. Stars glint, a celestial goldsmith's unfinished prototypes. Your heels crunch gravel, Marrakech's Medina exhales cumin and burnt sugar. Behind you, the lock clicks, a sound like a molar cracking. 16th century guild rules demanded 3 keys for gold vaults. This rusty thing barely keeps out moths. The smith's silhouette blurs behind warped glass. He's already praying over tomorrow's ingots. A donkey brays in the distance. Its lament warps into something musical. You pass shuttered spice stalls, their hinges still sweating turmeric. That fake emerald you pocketed earlier burns your thigh. A petty rebellion against beauty's tyranny. Your mother warned you about souvenir guilt, said Moroccan djinn hitch rides in stolen trinkets. The street narrows, walls lean close enough to share secrets. 9th century astrologers mapped these alleys as veins in heaven's wrist, each turn calibrated to mirror star paths. You misstep, cobblestones hum. Maybe Venus approves of larceny tonight. A child's laughter drips from a rooftop. You glance up. Henned fingers drop a slip of paper. It flutters down, lands in a puddle glowing with oil-slick rainbows. Draw me, a lioness scrawled in charcoal. The smith's youngest never quits. You fold it into your sleeve, promise nothing. Wind whips through a butcher's awning. Frayed canvas flaps like a dying gull. Fatima's hand amulets clatter above doorways, warding off drafts, and djinn, with equal indifference. Historians still argue whether medieval Maghrebis used talismans for piety or interior design. The answer's obvious. You've seen sex dungeon mosaics in volubilis. Your shadow stretches, merges with a stray cat's. It hisses at the moon, or maybe your reek of acid baths. You offer a date pit, the universal peace offering. It snubs you, leaves paw prints in goat blood pooled near the tanner's quarter. The city gate looms, its iron spikes gnawing at constellations. Guards snore against spear shafts, their snores syncopated with cricket rhythms. 14th century sentries faced flogging if caught sleeping. Now, they just lose cigarette privileges. You slip past, sand grinds between your toes like powdered stars. Dunes sigh ahead, a silvered expanse pocked by thorn bushes. Your stolen emerald warms, or maybe that's your conscience thawing. Bedouin poets claimed desert nights could forge lies into truths, given enough time and scorpion venom. You kneel, dig a hole with your hands. Sand infiltrates your nails. Exfoliation ritual you didn't consent to. The emerald plinks into the pit, its gleam extinguished. Burying contraband feels ceremonious, like salting a witch or planting a radio tower. Wind erases your crime. Standing, you spot a glow. The workshop's last lantern gleams atop its roof. For a breath, it mimics Polaris, then gutters out. The smith's final act, extinguishing hope so dawn can reignite it. Starfield's wheel, ancestral blueprints for bridal buckles and nipple rings. A meteor streaks, its green flame echoed in Fez's enamel ovens. You yawn, exhaustion weaves through your ribs like wire through a ring blank. Somewhere, the smith dreams of unworked gold, its potential purring like a contented cat. Somewhere, his daughter draws lionesses in mud. Somewhere, your stolen emerald whispers to worms about better homes. The night stretches, a hammered bracelet waiting for its clasp. You walk, the city dissolves into a rumor behind you. Above, the celestial goldsmith files Orion's belt, adjusting the fit for an emperor long turned to silt. Dawn lingers hours away, patient as a jeweler's setting flawed stones. Your feet find the path, not homeward, just onward. The sand remembers every traveler's weight, but never tells. The door's final sigh blends with the wind. Your footsteps dissolve into the dunes, whispered arithmetic. Above, the stars dim, not from dawn's approach, but from the celestial smith banking his fortifiers. Even gold must rest. Marrakech's murmur fades, a lullaby of rustling palm fronds. and distant wells creaking. That stolen emerald, a cold pebble now buried where scorpions guard forgotten treaties. Let the sand claim small crimes, it forgives what the heart cannot. Your hands still smell of acid and apricots, a paradox even the night can't resolve. The smith's daughter would laugh, her lioness doodles dissolving in tomorrow's rain. You trace the charcoal folds in your sleeve, soft as moth wings. Northward, the Atlas Mountains breathe their snowy collars, catching stray starlight. Bedouin trails curl like solder threads, paths meant for djinn and insomniac poets. You follow none. The desert prefers wanderers without maps. A jackal's yip stitches the silence, no threat, just a seamstress mending the dark. Your shadow grows porous, letting moonlight trickle through. Historians might call this exile, you name it kinship. Dawn lingers, a patient gilder, smoothing night's raw edges. No hurry. The smith's last lantern has cooled, his prayers nested in tomorrow's unshaped gold. Even regret softens here, becoming just another alloy. You kneel, press your palm to the earth. Grains shift, a language older than cell-edge tilework. Somewhere, roots absorb your stolen emeralds, lie transform it into a fig tree's stubborn green. Sleep comes as a lean guest, no demands, only a threadbare blanket of stars. Your dreams ripple, mercury pooling in a master's crucible. No clinks, no flames, just the slow spin of a galaxy aligning its jewels. The desert breathes, in out each dune a lung. You mirror it, chest rising in imperfect unison. No need to count heartbeats. Here, time is measured in eroded stones and the yawns of unnamed constellations. When your eyes close, the world doesn't vanish, it turns translucent. Workshop fumes become frankincense guards, snores morph into a lullaby's hum. That emerald, a firefly now blinking its confession to the dirt. Rest, the ultimate act of trust. Let scorpions stand vigil. Let wind rewrite your footprints. Let the celestial smith hammer tomorrow's bracelets from yesterday's stardust. You dissolve grain by grain into the great, gilded dreaming. Unburdened, unfound. The desert keeps your secrets, and you become one with its silent song.